All right, guys. Well, I'm happy you're all here. Fence Armor has been around for a little bit. When you come in the building, we're kind of two companies in one, maybe three. We have some software development we do. We're an engineering company. That was our primary focus. It always has been. And then back in 2008, 2009, I started to get aggravated because I normally do my own lawn care. And I started hiring people. Hey, let me hire professional lawn care people. And I did. And then they started destroying my fence. So how is this possible? They come out of their trucks, they do the lawn, and then they take their weed whackers and started destroying my fence line. And I said, every week you guys do this. I went through 3 landscapers. And finally, the one guy said, you know, there's nothing we can do. And I realized I cannot be the only homeowner in the world who has been aggravated to see their fence being destroyed, because it's expensive. And the first thing you do is to see it all hacked up, especially after you've just stained it. That even drives you a little extra level of crazy. So anyway, beside firing them all, I decided there's got to be a solution. And we built one. And we tried plastic, we tried aluminum, we tried different materials until we finally landed on galvanized steel. And we built the dies, because we have all the manufacturing background. We wanted to build things in the US and Canada. We didn't have to go to China, we built it here. Suddenly, we found all kinds of people who had the same issue I did. Landscapers are destroying my fence, and we get them on the phone. They're doing it right now, especially HOA guys. They really get aggravated with stuff like that. So that's how we built Fence Armor. So we still have our engineering division, but then we built our post caps, and now we've built RotGuard, and I know I'm going to show you some slides on this, but I wanted to give you a little history of how an engineering company became a full-on fence supply company, really. Because ultimately, like our brand says there, our catchphrase, prevent, protect, and prolong. So if we can prevent the damage from happening, then, you know, that's the first scenario. And then if you can obviously protect it and prolong it, those are synonymous with what most homeowners are trying to do. You build a fence, you clean a property, whatever it is, you want to be able to maintain it. So that's who we are. In the picture there, you kind of see all the pieces of what that is. And that's actually my fence. It's still up. Now this particular fence is going to need to be attended to, because this is before we created RotGuard. Even though it looks great, there is no weed whacker damage. What's happening underneath is not overly good. And those are 6x6 posts, and it's been 12 years. And where's Phil? Phil's famous line when he pushes on the fence.
That should not be moving.
I have a few of those posts that do the dance. So it's coming. I'm going to need some attention. And I think, was it you saying, somebody was saying they were going to pull posts out of the ground? Who was saying that? Is there somebody that pulls posts out of the ground? Was I just imagining? I know Andre does, right? Particular fence, I'm hoping to pull a lot of those posts out because I'd like to use the same position. And there's advantages and disadvantages to that, and we're going to have actually a podcast on Friday about that kind of stuff. But we do have post pullers that we sell from Oklahoma, which are a really nice tool. So Caleb, of course, will be our keynote speaker. He'll be talking about staining. He calls it his staining 101. It really, I think, is 101, 102, and 103 all built in. Ultimately, we build what we call a totem pole, and we suggest that maybe you guys build your own. We cut it to 19 inches because our boxes are 20. And when we ship them out, that's just the way it worked out. So what we do is we take a 4x4, because it's cheaper, and we wrap RotGuard around it. And I think all of you today who want to have something like this, we're going to give you all the parts for it, so you can build one at home. So the RotGuard pulls back, and it comes with a squeegee, and you wrap it around the post. But what this does is allows you to really see the ground line protection, the weed whacker protection, and then the cap to protect at the top. Tell me, social media, that this particular slide did really well, that image. You just don't know what's going to go viral. I did a video the other day saying how bad or pressure treated wood isn't the same as it used to be. I don't know, what do we get, 200,000 people? Who knew? I mean, you just don't know what's going to go viral. So I think one of the things you want to take away is when you're advertising your business to grow your business, film everything. So keep that in mind. Advertising your business is an important thing. Obviously, protecting the end grain is important. On the West Coast, you'll see a lot of those cedar type caps. And the reason for that is their posts are known as jumbo posts. So they're not, they call them 4x4s, but they're 4 1/8. And they don't build caps for 4 1/8 posts. We do. So of course we can switch those up. So these caps will run from 3 1/2 all the way to 4 1/8. In Ontario, typically you're 3 1/2. But once you get out west, they get a little bigger. And in the US, it's all over the map. Pennsylvania, you can go to Home Depot and your 4x4s are 3 7/8, 3 5/8. And that's why everything is now just labeled 4x4 without the inch marks. So then it just becomes a name, because Menards was sued for exactly that reason. They had the inch marks on the 4s, and when they finally got sued, the whole world of wood changed their naming structure to remove the inch marks, because obviously that would mean dimensional lumber, and there's not a lot of people with dimensional lumber. But having our caps, whether it's a 6x6 or a 4x4, they'll range from the nominal size all the way up to 6 1/8, and on our 4x4s all the way up to 4 1/8. So stopping the weed whacking damage is where we started, and we sell thousands and thousands of these. And as we get more and more known, we're just touching the tip of the market, because it's a $9 billion market in the US for the fencing and decking industry. So in Canada, that means 9. So it's a huge market. And the nice thing about our design is it can go on a post before or after. And typically we suggest that they put the guards on after. So that means every existing fence that you have out there is an opportunity for you to make money. So if you're on the down season, if you're installing Christmas lights, for instance, and it isn't snow on the ground, you can take pictures of the fence and say, hey, did you notice the bottom of every one of your posts is damaged? We've got a great solution, and it's immediate satisfaction because you immediately cover the damage. And to make a little extra, you can use some clear stain just to protect the wounded area, and then put on the fence armor. So it's a real easy opportunity to make extra money and get that curb appeal. And companies here we call them condo associations, but in the States they're HOAs. You don't have to sell it to them. They want it as soon as they know it exists. So it's a great tool to help you with that. And of course, obviously before the fence goes in the ground or the post goes in the ground, RotGuard is what you want to put on. You have your prop with you, and you share with your customer, Mr. Customer, here's the price for our regular fence, and here's the price with the Signature Series version. And we call it a Signature Series version because it's going to give you a 25-year warranty. The sleeve in the ground, right? So this is where everything rots. I do have a rotten post, but I think Phil's got it. Always carry a rotten post with you so they get that definition of what it looks like. Because every post, as you know, rots right here. And if you can prevent that rot, obviously that post is going to last a long time. We suggest 25 years because that's the testing we've done. If they're going to weed whack the membrane, then that'll void the warranty. Because above the ground here, that section has to be preserved. So it immediately gives you the opportunity to put on fence armor, the post guard. The post guard's in 2-piece design, so if there's grass here, then you put one on. If there's a garden bed on this side, you probably don't have to. So you can optimize the way you install them, which is nice. You're using the 3-inch version. You want to put it above the ground about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Why? Because you want it to be at the center line of where they're weed whacking. I've seen a lot of installs where they have it right on the ground, and they're growing their grass 3 inches high, and they're weed whacking up here. Not ideal. Or you can get the 6-inch version. But that's a tip for you guys on that. So the RotGuard just goes on with a squeegee. You pull back the membrane on the back, and you wrap it around. We have lots and lots of videos that show you how to do that. It takes about a minute and a half to install. So as we've been going through, I've been talking about how it helps the business. So if you now say to your customer, going with the Signature Series or whatever you want to call it is going to cost you $10 more per linear foot, low say, $8 more, whatever you want to charge for that, and give them a 25-year warranty, that's $80 a panel. And your cost is a fraction of that. Per panel, you're making a lot more money. Your customer has a lot more satisfaction. And we also, for those guys who are tree huggers, we also plant a tree for the rock guards that you sell for your properties. And we have a nice PDF warranty card that you can give your customer and so on and so forth with your branding. Just ask us to make it, we'll make it for you. It's a great upsell. And even if your customer says, well, you know what, we don't want to spend that extra money, at least they know you know your business and that you understand what is really going to happen to that fence. Because if you put a 4x4 in the ground today with the pressure treating that they're using, if you get 7 years, it's already good. 6x6, maybe 12 years. And I know that personally. Giving them that extra protection and telling them that the warranty is also transferable. They say, well, I'm only live in the house for 2 years. It might be a selling point for them down the road. Which then, of course, leads us into, my fence is going to last 25 years. Those posts are going to be solid. You want the panels to look beautiful, which leads you into the staining. And that's why in Fence Harbor, all our branding is about preventing, protecting, and prolonging. You want that fence to look great. So that's why the staining component is so important. And the other thing is, when you install fence armor, you're not going to see them again because the guards aren't going to fail. But the good news is fence will get burned up by the sun, the stain, every couple of years, every 3 years. So you've got continual business. You can sell a maintenance program. You can do whatever makes sense for your business to go back and stain their deck or stain their fence again. And sometimes they may want to change the color. You're going to learn about cleaning. You're going to learn about all the components that make a successful staining business. Building with contractors in mind, obviously we work with all of you and many contractors around the US and Canada. So we're excited to have social media events. You signed that media release like we did earlier, so we can share your information and work with you and build your brand, and that helps us build our brand. I think around 11:30 or so we have Jobber coming in. What is Jobber? I think a few of you already use it. It's a great piece of software. It's another tool that allows you to effectively run the back end of your business, because even myself, it's not my favorite thing to be doing accounting and to be doing invoicing and to be doing that stuff. I just don't like it. Having a CRM, doing those types of things is not my favorite thing. I'd like to do engineering. So this piece of software I've been recommending for years, because it's actually a Canadian company out of Alberta. And basically, you put your company information in there and it does the invoicing, it does the collecting of the money, it does the stuff you hate to do. It puts your money in the bank and sends out surveys and all that kind of stuff happening in the background. So they'll be here to do a little half-hour presentation. It is a tool I thought that is worthwhile sharing. You may have your own systems in place, but it's a cool tool. So we're trying to cover all the aspects of what you face as contractors. Not only products that you can offer your customers, but tools that you can use to build fences, and some of them include software. All right, I think I'm 3 minutes early. Thank you guys, that's great.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? You know, I come all the way up here from Tennessee, so I want you guys to be excited, have some excitement and be fun. So, yep. So my name is Caleb Roth. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and my company is Expert Professional Wood Care. So we make stains and sealers, but I started out in the fencing business and then got into the staining business and then got into manufacturing stains. Yeah, so I do the same old talk all the time, and it's kind of getting boring, so I might mix it up today. All right. So usually what I do is, I might as well tell my story. So like I said, I grew up in the fence business. So what that means is when school got out and summer started and all my friends went and rode their bikes and they went to the beach and they went outside and played, I went and built fence with my dad. So had a great upbringing in the fence business. And as I grew up, and got out of school, I went to work in the family fence business and did that for about 10 years. And we didn't understand margins. We didn't understand what things that are kind of a necessity to have a very profitable business to pay your people properly. So long story short, I was broke and I wanted to find a way to make more money. And so I started staining on the side. and started staining fences. And I grew up in the business, so I knew all the other fence guys, and so I just called all the other fence guys and said, hey, I stain fences now, let me stain your fences. And they would refer me out, and the business grew, and eventually I did staining full time. That company was called Stain and Seal Experts, and we stained fences and decks. We stained a little bit of everything. You know, if you got wood in your backyard, we'll stain it. You know, somewhere along the journey, I decided I wanted to make my own stain. How hard could that be? And so I Googled it, and you can't find that out on Google, unfortunately. But started making stains, and I did video content to get the word out. You know, here was what I would do. It was before you could go live, but I would take my phone out and I would say, this is Caleb with Stain and Seal Experts. I'm here in a backyard. The team, the crew is about to stain this fence. And when the crew's finished, I'll show you the finished product. And then I would change clothes, put on my staining outfit. I would stain the entire fence. And then I would change clothes again, wash my hands, and it was very obvious because I had stain on my face and my hair was messed up. But then I'd get the phone back out and I'd say, the crew just finished this job and it looks great. They've already headed to the next job, but I just wanted to show you this. And that's what I did. I used social media at the time before you could go live to get the word out about my business, because I grew up in the Yellow Pages era, and I couldn't afford a Yellow Page ad, but social media was free. And using my stains in my videos, other contractors asked, hey, what stain are you using? And I said, oh, I just make it myself. And they said, well, we would like to buy that stain. And I never thought of that. And so we started selling stains, and the rest is history, as it goes. So now we're in Canada selling stain, you know. Anyways, but I believe that the staining business is a great business. There's great margins in it. It pairs nicely with power washing. It pairs nicely with wood staining. It pairs nicely with Christmas light business. And I just wonder about these Christmas light guys. You know, the rest of us in the wintertime, we're going, what do you do in the winter? And these guys are all sitting around drinking coffee going, what do you guys do in the summer when you got no work, right? They go fishing. I think we messed things up. We could have been in the Christmas light business and had summers off. That'd be great. I guess you guys are busy all year long though, aren't you? You probably do a lot of, these poor guys. Are you sick of golf and fishing and, you know, boating and, you know, that's the way it goes. I'll say this, I believe something very simple. I'm kind of a highly energetic and motivated person. And so I believe that every couple hundred years, somebody comes along in their family and they're the one person that changes everything for several generations. And I want to be that person in my family. Does anybody out here want to be that person? You don't look like it. Make some noise. Yeah, I see a guy in the back there. You know, I guess there's a lot of things you can do, but staining is a thing that you can do to make a big difference for your family, especially if you don't come from a lineage of business owners or wealthy investment bankers. You know, we got to get out here and make a living somehow. And staining just happens to be not very competitive, as in, you know, if heating and cooling, that's pretty competitive, right? There's 1,000 of them in every town. But in most towns, there's not a staining contractor, or at least not a very good one that specializes specifically in wood staining. It's a good opportunity. Al said that the fencing industry is a $9 billion market, and I think that was true a few years ago. I think it's slightly bigger now. But in, let's see, what was it? In 2024, the wood coatings business was at 11.8 billion. But a long story short, there's a ton of wood coating opportunity. The market's humongous. There's plenty of business for everybody. Even if you could all leave here today and really focus on wood staining for the next 12 months, and you would all have enough work. You're not going to be starving and fighting over scraps, if that makes sense. It's a good opportunity, good business. So some of the things to start thinking about here. Let me go ahead and tell you what you're going to start seeing now that you've been here. You're going to start seeing unstained fences everywhere you go. New fencing. You're going to start seeing old fencing and decking. You're going to start seeing pergolas. You know, does everybody know what a pergola is? You're going to start seeing those. You're going to start seeing patio covers. That's a big thing in Texas. Gazebos, cedar homes, log homes, shutters, boat docks, boardwalks, railings. You're going to start seeing all this stuff that needs to be stained. You're going to start seeing money everywhere. And then the very bottom thing is pre-staining, which I don't know why that machine's not in here. We need to get that in here so you guys can look at it. But the wood care, it's everywhere. There's a lot of opportunity for it. and very few people taking care of it. So I usually tell people there are 3 ways to get into the staining business. One is you can refer a stainer. So if you're a fence builder or a power washer, you want to take great care of your customers. When they say, hey, I need to stain my fence, when should I do it? How should I do it? You can just partner up with somebody in here that will take care of your customers. Cool, look at that. That's a stain machine. So you can refer a stainer. Basically, if your customer asks you, hey, I want, you just washed my deck, or my cedar side at home, you just built me a fence. If you don't offer the service, you can refer a contractor out. And if it's a good contractor and they take good care of your customer, you've done your customer a favor. And in your project, the home you clean, the fence you built will look better last. If your sign is on it, it's got your name on it and it looks better, that's a good deal, right? Second thing you can do is hire a contractor. So if you referred someone, they did a great job, you want to hire them as a subcontractor, you can hire a subcontractor to do this work. So if you're in the fence business and you want to focus on putting fence posts in the ground, you could find somebody here to use as a subcontractor and technically never get your hands dirty, but it's, the contractor makes money, you make money, the customer's happy. And the third way is to start a crew. This must be the hardest way, but some of us will go down that path today. You can start your own crew. You can start learning how to do this yourself. Get the equipment. It's a low barrier to entry, so you don't have to kill yourself with making a huge purchase. All right, customers. So, so who is your customer? There's a lot more people who are actually your customer than you think. And so what I want you to think about is, who is my customer? So it's someone who owns a fence or a deck or a wood on their property. We're close to the Great Lakes, so there's probably a lot of docks. Is there a lot of docks on the lake here? But what I was getting into, see, you guys are paying attention. I know how to keep you guys on your toes. But who is your customer? Your customer is anyone with wood in their backyard or maybe their front door. There's all kind of wood care you can do. We won't go into front doors. You got to ask yourself, who is already working with my customer? Who else has my customer? So if you're power washing, or power washers can be your customer. Fence and deck builders can be your customer. Landscapers can be your customer. Roofers, and people always ask me, roofers, what do you mean? Well, a lot of places do we get hailstorms here? And we get those down south. So Texas, I'll give you an example. In Texas, they get hailstorms all the time. And the hailstorm comes in, it destroys the roof, it destroys the fence, it puts all these little spots in the fence. And the roofer, they have gotten wise, and they just come in and they fix everything. So the roofer will do the siding, they'll fix the gutters, they'll do the roof, they'll do the fence. Probably 5 years ago, I had a roofer in Texas call me and he said, hey, I need to hire you to do 1,000 per year cleaning and restaining of fences in Texas. He said, we're going to get 1,000 every year no matter what. We just want somebody to come do it. And I said, well, I'm in Tennessee, so I'm not going to do it. But roofers also, if you know a roofer, they know your customers. But usually painters hate staining stuff. They're really fast at painting, really slow at staining, and they don't want to do it. Again, power washers, HOAs and property management companies, those are a big one. If you get spec'd into an HOA or make friends with a community manager, they're gonna refer you over and over again. And so I just want you to be thinking about who is working with my customer already. And if you can make friends with those people and send them some carpenter pencils with your name on it, you don't have to pay Google or Facebook a whole lot of money, right? You can make friends, you can make relationships. And what can never happen to those relationships? They can't get canceled. But building real relationships with real people don't get canceled. Social media, online things, internet, all of that stuff comes at a cost, and it can be shut off at any time. So I just encourage you to make real relationships, make real phone calls. How many people are comfortable calling a fence guy and saying, I want to work with you? No. I'll give you a really good line. I'm going to call the fence company right back here. I'm going to call you up and I'm going to say, hey, this is Caleb. You guys build fences. I stain fences. We should be friends. It's an icebreaker. It works. But generally when you say that to people, it's an icebreaker. It breaks down a little bit of a barrier, and they go, oh, okay, you're one of us. We can talk and hang out and maybe work together. And there you go. And if they already stain fences, you say, well, if you get more than you can handle, I'll be glad to sub for you. There you go. You've got a relationship, and everybody works together. That's the idea. Know who your customers are and who's working with them. And if you really work on that, you'll have good luck. This says be different. So what we mean by be different is essentially we're saying Forget about the big box store brands. Forget about the not so big box store brands. All of those, most of your big box store brands are film forming products. So essentially it's like a layer of plastic on top of the wood. It sits on top of the wood, and the most big box brand of stains, they design their coating to last a really long time with no regard for the wood that they put it on. So how many of you have seen a fence or a deck that had a really, the stain was good, but the wood was cracked, the boards were warped and twisted at the top and all of those things? Very common. So we want you to be different by using a penetrating oil that actually goes into the wood, and it doesn't live on the wood, it lives in the wood, and it gives life to the wood. The difference is that this stain is made to make the wood last the longest possible, not the coating. So the coating is sacrificial. So what happens? We apply the stain to the surface, which was just put on the top of this board, and we have a video you can watch this process. But these boards were stained. They were allowed to set for like 24 hours and then cut on a bandsaw so that you could see the penetration. And this, I think this is about 7 days of penetration. After about 2 weeks, it goes all the way through, but it doesn't look nearly as cool all the way through as it does halfway through. So that's why we showed that photo. But what this does is this wood grain, when you get uneven drying, wet and drying, these wood grains, they crack, they split, they warp, they twist. What's your number one reason for callbacks for wood fences? I bet it's warping, cracking, and twisting, right? You build a beautiful fence, you build a beautiful deck, you get a 5-star review. Mrs. Jones, or is that a common name in Canada, Jones? Mrs. Robinson calls, and 6 weeks later, and she hates you. I hope no Karens here. I did that the other day. I made a Karen joke, and Karen was on the front row looking at me. So the penetrating stain is going to go into the wood. It's going to keep the wood grain together and prevent it from warping, cracking, and twisting. And I think where I was saying that what causes the warping, cracking, and twisting is fast changes in temperature and fast drying when the wood's wet. And so film forming stains, Justen was just talking about this, if you put a film forming stain on the surface of one side of a fence, because some people want one side done, what happens is that side can't breathe, and it cannot, moisture can't escape, but it can escape out of the other side, and you get major warping and cracking. If you coat all sides, now the wood is sealed, and if when water gets in, the fence post is in the ground, it still wicks moisture out the top, but once it goes up into the fence, into the post, it can't escape with a film forming stain. Same thing with the pickets. Nobody stains the bottoms of the pickets if they're using a film forming stain, so the moisture wicks out of the ground. A lot of times the fence is touching the ground, or the deck is on the ground, very close to the ground, and moisture gets into the wood, it's trapped, it can't escape, and eventually we have rot, and our fences deteriorate. And so this product is different in the senses that it's a sacrificial layer. So what we have here is we have pigments on the surface, which does UV protection. That protects against the sun, things like that, and it's beautiful also. It gives you a nice color. And then the pigment is suspended in basically a sealer, which is a drying oil, and that stays in the very top layers of the wood. And then the conditioning oil, which is a mineral oil, goes down into the wood and soaks all the way in over time. It's not going to soak all the way into a 12 by 12 beam unless you soaked it for a really long time. But on your average dimensional lumber fence pickets, 4x4s, 2x4s, things like that, 5-quarter decking boards, it does a great job penetrating into the wood nicely. And so that's what we mean by be different. Offer something that it's not at a store. You're not going to find it at most retailers. And it's a product that actually gives life to the wood instead of stealing life from the wood, if that makes sense. And the great thing about it is with film forming stains, you generally have to strip them or sand them, remove them completely before you can recoat. This product can be recoated right on top of itself over and over again. So very easy application, very easy maintenance, which saves your customers a lot of money in the long term. All right, so homes. Justen's going to talk about homes. If anybody has questions about homes, I can talk to you about that too. But we did a class for the American Institute of Architects to train architects on how to properly spec, design, and build wooden-sided homes. And two of the main key points that we covered was you cannot have wood at below closer than 24 inches from the ground, because rain comes off the roof, it comes out of the sky, oddly enough, and hits the ground, and then what happens? Splashes back up. And so how many of you have seen fences or decks where the fence or the deck looks beautiful except the bottom 18 inches is discolored from splash up? So that was the one thing. Masonry, metal, something else we want to put at the bottom. But the second thing was to use a penetrating oil type stain and sealer instead of a film forming typical type stain and sealer. And the difference over a 20-year period in maintenance cost alone on a standard size home was over $100,000 in maintenance cost savings by using a film forming stain. So hopefully that changed some architects' minds. So the next part, I just kind of want to give you guys some insight into some of our products. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time trying to sell you on our products, but we have great products. If you know anybody here who's used them, they'll be glad to tell you about them. But all of our products are made in the United States. We make them, we source everything. Unfortunately, the Strait of Hormuz thing, they're raising our prices, but everything's domestic. It drives me nuts. But we make everything in the U.S. Everything is domestic. It's made in Tennessee. So I'll go over our product lines. All right. So we have Expert Clean and Bright. So we manufacture wood restoration chemicals. Or maybe that'd be a good fit for your store. Both of your stores. But you make your own cleaners, so we got to watch that guy. We have multiple types of cleaning products, from very mild and eco-friendly all the way up to full-blown strippers. And our products are color-coded. Darren brought a fence panel in. We're going to clean it. It's going to look brand new. We've got some old pallets. But the cleaners, if you're in the business of building brand new fences and staining brand new fences, you probably don't want to clean anything. But as time goes on, you're going to get into maintenance and customers are going to call you back. You're going to want to clean and restore some wood. It's quite easy to do, especially on a hot day or on a rainy day. You can do cleaning. So our Eco Cleaner, let's see if I've got each one. Eco Cleaner, there we go. So our Eco Cleaner, it's a powder form chemical that you mix in water. You can mix it to varying degrees of strength. It is green. The reason it is green is so that you don't confuse it with another chemical, because sometimes if you mix two opposite chemicals together, you can get a reaction that can do lots of things. But if you mix a base and an acid together, it can create a reaction that pulls oxygen out of the air. It can actually collapse your lungs if you're in a confined space. So, and that's a big problem, especially in the power wash world, because people, they don't label their chemicals. It's all clear or white products. So we decided to add color to our products so that you could keep them separated in a pump sprayer. You see, you know exactly what's in it. Second product that we have is wood cleaner. This is probably the most standard thing that most people use in our industry for cleaning wood, because you can go very mild and it still also has some ability to strip some old finishes off. Justen probably uses that 90% of the time. Same for us with our service business. We're cleaning wood with wood cleaner. I have very original names too, right? Wood cleaner. Well, we also have a caustic wood stripper, which is being phased out with this Stripper Pro. But when you use Eco Cleaner and wood cleaner, these are bases. That means they have a high pH and they have to be neutralized. So I'll tell a power wash story since we have some power washers here. So in the States, this power washing company came to a gas station, late at night, they're doing their gas station cleaning, and they took caustic soda beads out of a bucket and they threw them out on the parking lot, and then they washed the parking lot with their surface cleaner. They did not neutralize this cleaner. And so if anybody knows anything about these type of caustic chemicals, bleach is even the same way. Every time it gets wet, it reactivates. And does anybody know what happens when you put caustic soda in water? It gets hot. It gets really hot. It can burn your skin. Not to mention the chemical itself also can cause major chemical burns, not just from the heat, but from the chemical. And it never stops burning until you neutralize it. So this gas station, they power washed it, cleaned everything up. And a couple of days later, it's raining out. It's late at night. A family is on vacation. They're headed back home. They pull into the gas station to get gas and to go to the bathroom. And so dad gets out. He starts pumping gas. And then mom and the 3-year-old girl get out of the car. She's barefooted, and they walk into the gas station to go to the bathroom. And from her footprints, by the time she got to the front door, were bloody footprints. So major burns. And if you don't know what's burning you, you don't know to neutralize it. So it just burns and burns and burns. And so you have to follow the proper steps when you're using these things. Even if you're using bleach on a wood fence, it's a good idea to neutralize it. But neutralizer does two things. It neutralizes the chemical, makes it stop working forever. It eliminates that. But it also brightens the wood up. So if you bleach wood, it turns like a white color, doesn't it, when it dries? It looks great on YouTube when it's wet, but the next day it turns white, and it's okay. But when you use these type chemicals and then you follow it with a wood brightener, if it's cedar, it's going to turn a nice pink color. If it's pine, it's going to turn a nice golden yellow color. And so these chemicals give you a proper wood restoration, a proper finished look. And so if you're going to charge a premium service, this is the type of chemicals that most people use in the field to do that, to achieve that. We also have this new wood stripper. Justen used it the other day, but in order to get away from caustic chemicals, which is where the industry is going, we're creating new products. And so this new stripper will strip anything. It'll strip concrete, pavers, it'll strip paint off the house, it'll strip any coating off of a wood deck. But it does not burn your skin. It does not get hot. And it does not need to be neutralized. So that's a good step in the right direction. Many of you will notice that we have blue labels on our buckets, but we have a red label here. I'll explain the difference. So this is our fence and deck. This is our original stain formula. It's designed for fencing, decking. You can use it on anything, but it's primarily for fencing and decking. You can use it on siding. But if you're doing log home restoration, log homes or any type of siding homes, timber frame homes, things like that, we have a product. It's just a lot stronger. It means it's more expensive, but it's a lot stronger product. It's designed to have a longer life, more sealing properties, etc. And that is our log and timber oil in this orange bucket. Or I don't know what color that is, but it's kind of a red. Another thing that it has is our natural defense in it. So the natural defense is a blend of 6 essential oils that you can blend with this stain, but it comes from the factory in this stain. And all that it does is it makes your backyard or the wood that you put it on uninviting to pests like boring insects, carpenter bees, termites, mosquitoes, ticks, fleas. They wouldn't let me put it on the label, but it even keeps iguanas away. And it really actually does. It keeps lizards, mice, and rats, snake, chiggers, boring insects, things like that. So it's a really neat product. You can mix it in any stain, you can mix it in any paint. And when we do maintenance of this, we try to come out twice a year to apply this to our maintenance customers. We put it in a soft wash system or a downstream like an X-Jet, and we spray it on in water just like that once the fence is already stained. So it's a great product, but the log and timber oil has that already in it. This stain, it can be added. And so that's another thing you can use to differentiate yourself. It smells great. It is literally a blend of essential oils, and that's it. There's nothing else in it. So when you do it, it smells like Bed, Bath, and Body Works in the backyard, and people love it. I'll talk to you about chemical application. So a young man was walking by earlier, and he had 2 chemical bucket sprayers. I believe you made those? Yeah, so that's a great way to apply chemicals. 12-volt pumps are great. I recommend keeping a spare 12-volt pump because you'll buy one and it'll last for 5 years. You'll buy one, it doesn't work out of the box. The next one works for 15 minutes. The next one lasts 2 years. They kind of, I guess they manufacture them so quickly you just never know. So if you're using a 12-volt sprayer for stain or for chemical application, they're great. But I recommend keeping a backup on your truck. You can also start out with a pump-up sprayer, which is what we'll use tomorrow. Those work great, but they're entry level. If it's a product or a chemical you're not using very often, works well. But if you're going to get into the business, a 12-volt sprayer is a great way to go. And then downstreaming. Most guys that do wood restoration full-time or have done it for several years, eventually they get to a point where they buy this thing called an X-Jet, and that's how they put their chemicals on. You can go so fast. There's no pump to break. There's no, very few moving parts. And an X-Jet essentially is a downstream injector, but instead of injecting at the pump on your power washer, does everybody know what an injector is? It's the hose that comes off the power washer. You put it in the bucket of soap and it sucks the soap through. Instead of being all the way at the pump and running all the chemical through your hose, it's at the nozzle. And so you essentially have a 10 or 20-foot hose connected to a bucket that has a strong concentrated mix of your cleaner or your brightener. And you just, as fast as you can walk, you apply the chemical. So if we did a fence the size of this backyard with an X-Jet, you could do it in just a few minutes. You could put the chemical on really, really quickly. And so most people are going to that. But you can also start out with a bucket and a brush. You can take a 5-gallon bucket, put a couple gallons of water in it, dip your brush in the bucket. You can apply chemical that way. And then, of course, soft wash systems. So if you've got any questions about equipment, come and ask me. How many people are hesitant to get into staining because you're scared that you may spill stain or get stain on siding, something like that, right? That's a big concern. Usually when I talk to fence builders, they say, nope, We're not going to stain anything because in 1988, we were staining a fence over here in downtown, and it sprayed on a whole parking garage full of Mercedes-Benzes, and it cost us $4 million to fix it, right? You know, everybody has a similar story. Penetrating oil stains are non-drying. So that means when they go into the wood, they don't dry, they don't cure like a paint or a film forming stain does. And so what that means to you is that if this stain blows over on your new pickup truck, you can go over there and you can wipe it off. You can use soap and water to clean it off, or you can just wipe it with a dry rag. If you have hinges on your fence, how long do you think it takes? I want some answers. How long do you think it takes to mask off the gate hinges and the gate latch on a gate? How long? How long?
Too long.
How many minutes? 5 minutes? So I was talking to a big painting company. I said, your best guy, your best one, how long will it take him to mask the latches and hinges? He said, 20 minutes. I said, okay. And then we sprayed stain right over the hinges and latches. So with a penetrating stain that's non-drying, it doesn't stick to metal. So you can spray it right over the hinges, right over the gate latch, metal gate post, doesn't matter. And you just take a dry rag and you wipe it off. And we tell people we oiled your hinges for free, right? And so penetrating stains are great because if they get on stuff, you have time to work with it, you can get it off. If a paint flies over there and gets on a car, as soon as it hits it, it dries. Now you gotta get out the Brillo pad, right? It's a big deal. So penetrating oils are great for if it gets on windows, things like that. You just clean them off. Soap and water does it. And concrete, if you wet concrete down, so if you're staining a fence beside a concrete driveway, you can take a water hose, wet the driveway down. Same if it's a brick home, you can wet the brick home down. And if stain floats and gets on the driveway or on the brick home, if it's wet, it doesn't stick to it. And so you can rinse it away. Now, this doesn't replace the fact that you need to mask things and you need to do proper cut-ins and not take chances, but it's good to know, to have that tool in your back pocket that, hey, you know, this concrete pad's a little too, we don't have enough plastic. We're just gonna wet it down and keep it wet while we're staining, and you don't have to worry about it. And so here's an example of a bucket. This was a full bucket of chestnut stain that was spilled on very, very porous, non-sealed concrete, and put kitty litter down, got it up, and then use degreaser, use this stuff here. This is a concentrated degreaser. You probably have something similar in your world, but this formula was made for oil field work. You guys have oil fields here too, but it was made for oil field work. And so I recommend every stain contractor have 2 pump-up sprayers, a 1-gallon pump-up sprayer and a 2-gallon pump-up sprayer. And this product is concentrate, so this 1 gallon makes 5 gallons at a 4-to-1 ratio. So I recommend your 2-gallon sprayer is full of this product, cut 4-to-1. And you can just use that for, you know, misting. You know, if you're afraid you're going to get stain on something, you can pre-wet it with this. If you're just doing basic cleanup on windows, you're washing your truck once a week or whatever that you're doing, this works great. But then your second pump-up sprayer, the 1 gallon, you want to keep this full strength and in the concentrated form, in case every once in a while you'll run into a window, a white vinyl window, and you just can't get the stain off, or siding or something, a downspout. You put this on it, takes it right off. You want to be careful with downspouts though, because they have thin skin, and if you go too strong, you can take the paint off. But you'll learn that. Hopefully not the hard way. But downspouts, just to reiterate, use the diluted version on downspouts. The whole idea of this slide and this talk is to just say, hey, you know, if you make a mess, it's pretty forgiving. You can get it up. If we poured it out on the floor here, or maybe broom finished concrete, you spilled some stain on it, degreaser, soap and water will usually take it up. If it doesn't, you can take a wire brush and just hit it 2 or 3 times and it comes clean. And so it's a lot easier and a lot more forgiving generally than water-based paints or stains when it comes to messes. Okay, so the question sounds to me like if you're cleaning, doing wood restoration around a painted siding home, do you have to worry about it? Generally with strippers, yes. The best rule of thumb is to pre-wet the house down, and then to be very careful with your application and basically don't be a knucklehead, right? And what I mean by what would a knucklehead do? A knucklehead would spray chemical on the side of the house, not paying attention. They would let it dry on the house, and then they would forget about it. And then you have residue. No different than if you put soap and water on the side of the house, it would leave residue if you let it dry. So the best rule of thumb, wet the whole house down, keep the house wet, do your wood cleaning. every time you start and finish cleaning a wood surface, you want to finish with rinsing the house down. And if you're using any type of cleaner that has a powder residue, it's going to leave a residue on the house or on the windows if you don't rinse it or scrub it away. And so, generally speaking, you don't have to mask a house. You can. I would not mask the house personally because I'm afraid that cleaner would get behind the plastic and then dry on the house, and then I pull the plastic down and I see this dried film on the house that now I have to scrub off. So to me, it would be better to not mask it. There would be some circumstances that would be opposite of that. Maybe if you're stripping something, there would be some times that you would want to use masking. But generally speaking, we're not ever going to mask anything that we're cleaning. There you go. So the next thing I want to talk about is you guys have got it bad up here. How many months out of the year can you work outdoors? 7? Okay. So staining is a seasonal business, as we know. The great thing about oil type stains are, well, let me ask you this. What's the lowest temperature do you think you can use stains in? 7 Celsius, what is that, like 32? Oh, you guys are bold up here. In the US, everybody says 40 degrees, so I was close. So 8 degrees. Most people say 8 degrees. And then what about temperature, heat? What's the hottest you can stain in?
I would say no limit, depends on humidity.
I love the fact that you don't have preconceived notions on this. This is great. So most stains require that you use them above 40 or 50 degrees, so above 8 or 10 degrees Celsius. And then you can't use it in any temperature over 80 degrees. So you said 35? So you can't use it over 35, and you can't use it in the direct sunlight. Those are the things that we've dealt with for years in the coatings business. Penetrating oils can be applied in any temperature. They can be applied in direct sunlight. They can be applied in the shade. They can be applied in the dark. And so it doesn't matter. You can apply them in any temperature as long as the wood is dry. And so a very important thing is to have dry wood. And if you touch the wood and it feels cold, it's probably wet. Probably needs to dry out a little longer. If the wood just feels like dry wood, it's probably dry. You can also get a moisture meter that you plug into the fence. It's just a resistance tester, and it gives you a percentage of moisture. 13% or less is ideal. Some parts of the world just don't get that low. And so maybe in actually you guys will probably get very dry here. Typically the more south you go, the more humidity we have, the more dew we have on the ground. And so we tend to have high moisture content. Up here, I'd say it's a little bit drier. Maybe around the lakes, it's a little bit different. But anyways, you want to check your wood. If it's dry, you can stain it. So what you want to watch out for in your market is that let's say the fence is wet, high moisture, say 22% moisture, and then it freezes. And then you come back the next day and you check it and you go, oh, it seems plenty dry, but the wood is frozen. If the wood's frozen, then the stain can't penetrate in. But as long as the wood is dry, stain will penetrate in the summer, in the winter, anytime, which is a big deal because if you can only work 7 months, but now you have a product that can extend that out to maybe 9 months, you've added 20% back onto your season, more money into your pocket. So it's a great deal. So pre-staining. We were talking about seasonality. Now we just spoke about extending your season with using the right product, how an oil stain can extend your season. This product can take you from, the oil itself can take you from 7 months out of the year to 9 months. This machine here can take you from 9 months to 12 months out of the year. And so a lot of fence stainers, deck stainers, power washers, they're afraid of pre-finishing and they look at it as a threat in their industry and it's coming for their job. It's like the power washing drones and robots. It's some people are embracing them and some people are afraid of them. Well, eventually somebody's going to win, right? And so the way we look at this machine is a separate line in your business, but it's the same business. It's just differently. And so the great news is that even someone like me can use this machine. This one is not set up just right, but this machine, we'll just move this out of the way. You want me to do that? You want me to do that again? It is this easy. So there you go. I've been practicing. So this machine is a pre-finishing machine. It's an old design. Canada is widely known in the finishing world for pre-finishing. It's in the U.S. There's only certain parts of the U.S. that it's known in. In Canada, it's usually known that you can do this because of your seasonality here. And so this is a great machine that you can use to add to your business, to add another line of staining boards for way more people than you think, for painters, for home builders. We went into a lumber store yesterday and we're talking about the stain, and the first thing they start asking, do you do pre-finishing? Can we work with you on pre-finishing? We've got projects. And they already knew about it. And when I'm back home, you go talk to people about it and they look at me with big eyeballs and they don't know what I'm talking about. So you have an advantage here, which is good because you need it with the seasonality. But this machine can stain just about any type of lumber, 4 inches tall to 12 inches wide. And you can make a living doing that. And I recommend, while you're out talking to all your customers about staining their fences and decks in the field, you're also making relationships with people, home builders. For example, do you guys use tongue and groove ceilings on patios and things like that? Well, the going rate in the US is $10 to $12 a square foot to start to do a ceiling like that. So a 10 by 12 area is what, $12,000? We can do it for about $500 through a stain machine and be profitable. Right? So the point is, you can pretty much charge whatever you want for this service if it makes sense. If they're going to pay $12,000 to hire a painter to come do it, but I can do it in 30 minutes with my stain machine, $500, is that fair? $1,000, is that fair? Generally, it's going to be by the linear foot, 25 cents to 50 cents a linear foot. It's kind of been a standardized price for bulk pre-staining services. You would charge more for small projects. But this machine is something great. When it's raining, you can use it. When it's snowing, you can use it. And if you, just like you started out, you know, whenever you guys started in the fence business, whenever you started in the power wash business, you didn't have customers. You had to talk to people, meet people, and build your portfolio of business up, your pipeline. Same way with this machine. It may look like a spaceship to you right now and you have no idea where you would get business for this, but when you start talking to people, when you start doing this, and you start, you know, letting people know that this is available, eventually your pipeline will fill up and you can keep something like this going. And it's a great little machine, and so I highly recommend it. My goal is to take the seasonality out of the staining business, because when we do that, we can hire better people, we can do better things. And so this machine goes a long ways towards doing that. So, any questions about the pre-stain machine? The machine, so the question is doing ceilings with the pre-stain machine. Yeah, so it's got some attachments where you can just take the machine and you can attach it right to the ceiling, and it makes it really easy to stain. That was a joke. Nobody caught my joke, but I was joking. So generally when you're doing overhead stuff, you're masking everything, you're wetting things down, putting plastic down, masking the walls, masking the concrete floor, and then you're spraying overhead. And I don't know if you know it, but to do this all day hurts, doesn't it? You know, you start feeling like a sissy, because my neck shouldn't hurt just from looking up. But it's very difficult. And so generally most guys that are experienced at it, they have long wands. So instead of doing this, they're holding their wand down here at their chest and they're moving this way to spray the ceiling. And then when they're done, they're back brushing, they're wiping. Generally on a smooth tongue and groove ceiling, you'll spend as much time wiping everything down as you do actually getting the product on. And you do have drips, especially in the tongues and in the grooves. And so generally you're gonna clean everything, you're gonna wipe everything, you're gonna stain everything, then wipe everything down. You're gonna pull all your plastic, but you're gonna leave one layer of plastic down and tell your customer, or you send your crew back over the next day to remove that plastic because of any drips, and just touch any drips that may be puddling on the ceiling. That's why you have to charge big bucks for it. But with this machine, you just run it through the machine, dry everything out, and send it to your customer and get paid.
You say the machine doesn't like will and drip after you run it through?
So it has back brushes on it, so it's going to back brush all sides. And so the difference, just so I make sure I'm clear here. So think about these boxes. Look at these boxes over here on the shelf. They're stacked up and they're on the shelf. This is very different than a built box. So in the comparison is going to be, I'm going to say this is a fence material package or a ceiling material package on the shelf versus installed, right? It's very different after it's installed versus just being stacked. So the way a pre-stain operation would work is in your garage, in your shop, under a carport, or out in the yard if it's, you know, if the weather is permitting, you have a stack of lumber. You take the lumber, Each piece you run through the machine. It is now stained, and you can stack it up vertically, or if you have racks built, like finger racks that you can slide your boards on, you let the boards dry. If it's rough cut, generally you can just stack it right away. If it's smooth cut, you want to let it dry before you stack it so there's not spotting. Then you would load it up, and then they would install it already stained. So there'd be no drips, no runs, nothing. The lumber's dry, it's ready to go. The installation process does not change. Make sense?
Yeah, sorry. I thought it was more about like taking that to a job site.
You can.
And it would drip all over the place and just cleaning it up. No, you're saying it's more like you
yeah,
do it
so
off-site and bring it to the site after the fact.
It can be done. It can be done both ways. So, if you put a drop cloth under the front and back of it, generally the back brushing gets enough of the drips off for it to not be much of an issue. And so we see a lot of people will take it to the job site. They will run the boards through, stack them up, and then somebody's nailing the boards up. And then other people do it in the factory or in the warehouse. It can be done both ways. I recommend you if you have space, that you eventually start getting enough business so that you can do it. The idea is to remove seasonality. So when the sun's shining and it's a beautiful day, I want to be out staining a fence or staining a deck. When the weather is not as good, or maybe it's getting dark earlier, I can go back to my place and I can do this stuff. And so once you build enough relationships, the ideal thing would be you're out working in town and you get a phone call that says, hey, I've got a 4,000 square foot material package I need to drop off at your shop for you guys to stain. Here's the color. Can I just drop it off? Yeah, bring it on. You get home, it's sitting there. You go stain it that night, you bundle it back up, the next day they come pick it up, Perfect world, right? But that's the idea with that machine. This guy back here is holding his hand up for like 20 minutes. Are you okay?
Yeah,
You want to shake it out?
I'm just wondering, what's the rough retail cost of the machine?
It's roughly a $4,000 machine. Yeah, it's roughly a $4,000 machine in US dollars. I don't know what that equals in Canadian dollars. But it's about a $4,000 machine. And if you run a fence picket, you're going to charge anywhere. Let's ask you, what do you charge up here to do this?
Pre-staging coming through, it would be about 25 million.
25 cents? I was going to say.
So I kind of know what the market will bear for the tongue and groove. So that's a pre-finished product that you can buy in stores right now. So for me coming in, it would be less than that and around $1.25 a linear foot.
$1.25 a linear foot?
Yep. That's just to stain it.
And that's Canadian?
Yep.
That's fantastic money. It's
Yeah.
fantastic money. So let's just call it $1 a foot.
Yeah.
That's $16. Another quarter, that's $4. So you're doing $20 a board?
Essentially.
Yeah, $20 a board.
Depends how long here.
Yeah, great money. So let's get our calculator out here. Let's say we have a 10 foot by 16 foot. Those are 16-foot boards? Yeah. Well, yeah, for $20 it would be. So you've got a 10-foot ceiling, 16-foot long. That's going to be roughly 20 boards across, right? So what's 20 times 20? $400. How long will it take you to do that? 7 minutes. It'll take you longer to put stain in the machine than it will be to run the boards through. So there's $400 in 7 minutes. Now it would be thousands of dollars to do it once it was installed, but pre-finishing makes sense. And that may seem like not much. Well, it's $400. But when you got 22 orders to do, this one's $400, this one's $750, this one's $4,500, this one's $350. They start adding up, and you can do this when it's raining, snowing, or shining out. It's a good opportunity. And so maybe this will get your wheels turning on that. The fencing business in the United States is moving very quickly to all pre-stained lumber. And the opportunity is for the pre-stained business, but also for the maintenance code. So 3 years later, it's a good idea to come back and restain it. So getting someone to stain a new fence is much harder than getting someone to restain a fence, because the fear of loss is greater than is greater than the want of gain, right? So when they build it and it's beautiful, they want it to stay looking like that. So we can talk about equipment a little bit. Already talked about airless sprayers, or 12-volt sprayers. Airless sprayers are my recommendation. Someone brought an airless. You brought an airless? We'll show you what there it is. It's right over there. So an airless sprayer is a great machine. There's a lot of different ways to spray stains. I like an airless because in any town, in any part of the world that's westernized or industrialized, you can go get parts for this machine. And this machine will spray paint, it'll spray glue, it'll spray stain, it'll spray concrete sealer, it'll spray anything. And the parts are interchangeable. You know, if you need to rebuild the pump, it's $80, you get a new pump. If you need a filter, you can pick it up at the paint store. If you need tips, you can get them. If a hose breaks, you can get it at a store or Amazon. So airless sprayers are great. And now the technology is very good with the tip selection and the pressure regulation. You can turn these machines down. When I first started, we were watching a video last night on Al's TV. He's got an Apple TV. It's pretty cool. And I'm using an airless sprayer and I'm blasting. I got it turned up high. What we've learned over the years is you want to turn your machine down really low. And so when you're spraying, at a certain point when the pressure is low, there's just a trickle coming out. It's just a stream. But when you get enough pressure, it atomizes and you have a fan pattern. What we want to do on our machines, we want to run just above the prime setting, if you're using the right tips, so just enough to get a fan pattern. And what happens is there's way less atomization, way less overspray carried away. And so we can reduce our overspray, but we can still get the volume of product out because we're using a very big orifice on our sprayer. And so airless sprayers are great. Just use them. Don't even try anything else because we've already tried it and banged our head against the wall. And then another important thing that I want to talk about is safety. How many of you wear a mask when you're, or safety glasses when you're cutting with a saw, or you're sanding something, or you're spraying toxic chemicals? I tell people it doesn't matter what you're spraying, or if it's in the air, if it's atomized, you need to protect yourself so that your lungs, your eyes, things like that. A lot of people, when they open this bucket of stain, because it doesn't have a big toxic odor smell, they go, oh, I don't need to wear a mask. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. There's oil in here. It is a highly refined, it's a great oil. It has tons of third-party verification on the safety and the VOC of it and things like that, but it's still an oil, and once that gets in your lungs, it cannot be, your body can't get rid of it. So it's a good idea. It's no different than vaping. All the people that are vaping and they're getting, crispy lungs or whatever, right? So wear your personal protective. Your family, if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your family. Oh, we have an app. So years ago, Fence Armor had an app, and I thought it'd be cool if we had an app too. So we have an app called the Stain and Seal Experts app, and it will show you all the stain colors, and all those things are great. But the cool thing is you can actually measure a fence, you can measure a deck, you can put all your pricing, all your numbers into the system. It will tell you exactly how much to charge, exactly how much stain you need for a project, and it will help you just have a good idea on those type of things. I'll leave it there. A cool thing that you're going to see over the next few months from us is a certification from a company called Coatings Research Group. The certification is called a Greenwise certification, which means we're actually the only oil-based stain, the only stain in the world, oil-based or water-based, to have a Greenwise certification. And there's a long list of things that it means, but it means that the product has been tested for performance. It's been tested for verification of VOC levels, and it's also been tested for a long list of chemicals that are known to be harmful to humans and the environment. And again, wear a mask, protect yourself. But this is the only stain in the world that has that. So it's great to know that your customers will feel good about you using a product in their backyard that's not going to stink the whole neighborhood up and things like that. And for you, Darren, there's lead points for the LEED certification, so it may be helpful for architect projects and things like that. So something good to know. That's kind of it. I will be happy to take your questions.
So one question about the X-Jet. You gotta have a strong, concentrated chemical mix because it's mixing with the water, right? I've played with the X-Jet before. I don't think I played with it enough to really give it a good chance. But I noticed that there's all these different little plastic nozzles for different dilution rates.
Take those and throw them away.
Okay, but then how did you get such a concentrated mix? Because I use that chemical 12-volt sprayer.
Yeah, so my understanding is that when you pull all the tips out of it, you have a 50-50 dilution rate. And so if we're going 50-50 coming out of the thing, then my bucket, what needs to be in it?
Twice as strong?
Twice as strong. So if you mix 8 ounces per gallon, it would be like a strong cleaning mix. If you go 16 ounces per gallon in your bucket and then you're running 50-50, you'll get the proper mix on your fence. In my opinion, if you've got something really, really nasty that really needs to be cleaned, I'm usually going to probably apply with a different method. If it's really bad, like this fence over here, no problem. We'll exject that all day long. Most of what we do is exjected, but if it's something really, really bad, I might use a different means. But 90% of the time, I would use that.
My question, actually, Adi stole my comment about the XJet downstreaming. So you would be the same thing, right? 50-50 mix and downstream,
I've never had as good a luck with traditional downstream injectors. I think they're the strongest ones are 30%.
The strongest one, yeah.
Power washers have to tell me because I don't know.
10,
but I think they're a
10%,
33 or 30% mix.
So 1 gallon with 4 gallon of water would be a good mix to downstream?
Probably not.
Probably not.
One gallon of chemical
to
powder.
4 gallon of water.
Oh,
Mix
yeah,
it in 5.
Strong. That would be strong. The problem is every 100 feet of hose is a gallon of product. So if you're using one product and you're spraying and you have 300 feet of hose on your reel, that's what we run, you now have 3 gallons of cleaner left in your hose before the brightener comes through. And so the reason I like the XJet is because it's right at the tip. I don't have any cleaner left in my hose. That it, you know, for one, if you finished the fence, now you've got 3 more gallons of product that you've got to get through that hose. So you got to do something with it. Usually you put it back on the wood, which could be too strong sometimes. And then secondly, you've got to wait all that time. You got to spray all this. You got to spray 3 gallons of water out of your machine before the next chemical picks up. So I prefer the XJet for that reason. It's just faster. I don't have to worry about anything sitting that's corrosive in my lines.
XJet has a lot of overspray.
It does.
How do you deal with it?
Wet everything down. That's what most guys do.
Because I'm thinking XJet puts a lot of volume, and you don't want to spray like 5-8 sections because you don't want it to dry it on you, right? So you only apply the chemical on 1 section, 2 sections, and you start cleaning. Right?
Yeah. So my experience, sometimes a little biased, because my job is to do 3-year-old or less fencing and decks new, and as many of them as we can. We want to go. So when we get to a job, we're moving, and we're going to have 2 guys, and so we can go spray the whole fence because there's another guy right behind him washing it. When it's just you or you and a helper and you're starting, the 12-volt system, the pump-up sprayers, all of those things work really well. And over time, you'll pick up on things like he's talking about. The XJet's going to have overspray. You got to learn how to deal with that. The pump sprayers are slower. 12-volt sprayers may be a little slower than the XJet. So if you get too far ahead of yourself, you're going to have to find yourself going back and keeping things wet. So I would recommend starting with what you have and just learning the system, learn the process. The cleaning process is very simple. Pre-wet the wood, apply your chemical, let it dwell, wash, and then brighten, and then rinse. Sounds like a lot of steps. And you can tell your customer it's a 22-step cleaning process, and they'll believe you. But it's only really 2 steps. So. Yes, sir.
Just to add, we offer actually free training, in person and online. So if you guys anything about learning how to do wood restoration, you can just contact me. We do it for free.
Just want to add that, like maybe some of you that are just trying to enter the business, when I started, I used a pump sprayer originally, and I probably used not enough chemicals, and little things over time have really improved. This past year, I've been using a 2.2 gallon per minute pump sprayer. I'm pouring more chemical. I'm pre-wetting. I'm keeping it wet. You go to a job and you kind of have that muscle memory or that experience where you'll kind of say, okay, I think I'm going to do this to get the best results. And it's improved my overall finish, but also minimize sanding time. But what I want to say too is I'm kind of right now in the adjustment phase where I'm going to try to improve my containing my chemicals, for example, because I've had a few issues in the last year with an employee. Again, I don't put it on them too much, but it's a little bit of overspray, or you pre-wet something and then it can dry so quickly. and then next thing you know, you'll like spray the deck and the chemical might spray off and hit something. And something even like stainless steel barbecues or whatever, you might etch accidentally. So yeah, I would just say, like, it comes down to experience. Just be very careful. And I'm playing with the chemicals now. That's why I talked to you about the X-Jet. I used it a little bit, but I found that the 12 volt sprayer worked well for me. And I'm actually stepping it down to a 1 gallon per minute machine. And I'm gonna kind of pick and choose and see what the pros and cons are of everything.
1 gallon's perfect for spraying chemicals. So one of the things that you're going to notice, some of the stories they're telling here might make some of you go, oh, I don't know if I want to get into wood restoration. When you own a business, you have to pay attention to things. And you know, this is always the problem why so many people find it hard to scale to get off the job site, is because their head's on a swivel. They're paying attention. They're wetting things down. They're talking to the customer. They're keeping an eye on the wind. They're multitasking, and they find it hard to find other people to do it. So it's a great idea to write these things down, right? Like you were just talking about. When we're doing a job, we're pre-wetting everything. When we apply our chemicals, we're going to pre-wet again. You're standing around. You're not doing anything, waiting for your chemicals. It's not as loud as it was. But when you're standing around during that dwell time, you got nothing to do. All right. You've got nothing to do, so it's a good idea to pre-wet things. Wet the bushes, wet the house, start from the gutters. Just keep everything wet. Your chemical's working, just wet things down. And that's a good idea. And same thing once you start your wash. Once you start washing the deck, it's going to get on the house. We planned for this. We know this is going to happen. Every so often, we're going to rinse it off the house. And so you just have to pay attention. If you're not detail-oriented, or you're going to send one of your guys out there maybe who's not going to pay attention, it's probably not a good idea. But as long as you're attention to detail, you'll do well in the staining business in the wood restoration. I just wanted to highlight something. So if you see one of our trucks pull up now, this is what they look like. Everything you need is in there. There's all electric hose reels. You can wash, you can stain, you can take a nap, whatever you want to do in this truck. It's even got a screen on the dash, you know. But when I started, I was in a 1998 GMC pickup that I paid $1,300 for, and I had a little box trailer behind me. And just like Justen said, I couldn't go buy this. If you start off with the best top of the line equipment, it's great. And if you can afford to do that, and you're all in, I would do it. But there's going to be a learning curve, a major learning curve. You've got to figure out your equipment. My dad always used to say, when you get new equipment, that's when you get hurt. And so you have to be very careful when you introduce a new piece, especially heavy equipment or a new lawnmower or whatever. The story was, my dad had 200 yards that he maintained before he was in the fence business, and I would help him. And they bought a brand new lawnmower, a big fancy Kubota diesel lawnmower, and they pulled it up on the trailer. And I was standing behind it. They forgot to set the parking brake. It started rolling off the trailer, and so what did I do? I stopped it. Well, the back of the engine, the hole was right there, and it was a muffler, and it had the grids and cut out. It said hot. And so on one hand, I had lines, and on the other hand, I had HO. And then that's when my dad said that. He said, when you get new equipment, that's when you get hurt. You got to pay attention. And so when you get new equipment, it's going to take a lot of work. But when you start from scratch, like I did in the 1998 GMC pickup truck, I could afford a pump-up sprayer. And man, this is taking longer than I want. When you first start, you don't have overhead. So if all you have is a $20 pump-up sprayer, and I'm charging $450 to clean this 150 feet of fence, I can spend all day here. It's all right. But when you've got a truck like that and 2 guys in it, you have to have more efficient equipment so you can go faster, because we're paying the team, we're paying the equipment, we're paying the truck. And so you crawl, walk, and then run is what I recommend. If you can do it that way, it's a great way. In pump sprayers to 12-volt systems, you know, the funny thing is, now, I'm more likely now to do things the slow way than I was years ago. So for example, if you sent me out on a 10 by 12 deck cleaning job, I might not be opposed to taking a bucket and a brush and just put my chemical on with the brush, scrub it, take my time, wash it off, because I'm not in as big of a hurry as I used to be. My head used to explode if I was slow. I was a wild man because that's the way I was raised. We got to go, go, go. And so sometimes it's a good thing to slow down a little bit, especially when your overhead's lower.
Here, we've got a question from the readers that are online. Stephanie is going to read it.
Okay. So it's from Wesley, and basically it is about the follow-up with the client. So the following spring, what does the cleaning look like? Is it eco cleaner and brightener, then a recoat? There's a lot of mention of the maintenance coat. So what does that look like?
So what I would suggest, we really need to know what's on the wood now. If it's a brand new fence, then you may want to go with an eco cleaner just to get the fence ready to receive some stain. If it's a existing fence with stain on it, you've got to see what kind of stain it is. So just because it's spring doesn't mean you have to clean the fence. If it's already stained and you stained that fence last year, it may not need stain again for a little bit. So the question is good, but it's a little bit difficult to know how to answer it without having some more foundation. If it's a brand new fence, Eco Clean is always great. Brightener can't hurt, but I had Caleb tell me you can use Eco Clean on a new fence without following up with brightener. That's what I thought. So because there is no residual effect afterward, it's not continuing to process. Eco Clean is one and done.
So it's easier to get the second money from someone than the first money, right? Because those customers have worked with you, they trust you. That's a customer. So for years, we told contractors, you need to build a maintenance plan, charge by the month, charge by the job, call people back, et cetera, et cetera. And nobody ever really did anything. But they would always ask about it, but nobody implemented it. So what we did was we put a lifetime warranty on this stain. So this stain comes with a lifetime warranty. It's guaranteed to never peel, crack, or chip. It's never going to peel, crack, or chip. But the warranty comes just like a new truck. It comes with a maintenance plan. To keep your warranty, you have to do the maintenance. So when you sell a stained fence to a customer, or a deck staining, fence staining, whatever, you say, Mr. Customer, this stain has a lifetime warranty. In order to maintain your lifetime warranty, we have to follow the recommended maintenance by the manufacturer, which is we wash it once a year with Eco Cleaner, just a simple wash. You can do it or I can do it, but it has to be done to maintain your warranty. And then we follow industry standard rules for recoats. So every 2 years is the industry standard for maintenance on a flat surface. So every 2 years, your decking floors, you want to come out and do a touch-up. For vertical surfaces, we do 3 years. So every third year on a fence, you want to come out and you want to do a maintenance. A maintenance can be anywhere from 30 to 65% as much stain as you used the first time. So it's going to be less stain, it's going to cost less, but the idea is that the customer doesn't want to lose their warranty, so they're going to call you back. And you can charge by the month, you can charge by the year, but I recommend you call your customers back over and over every year. Send them emails. I use Jobber. I sent out an email on a Jobber campaign. It closed $75,000 worth of work. One email. So if you send these emails to your customer, you make the phone calls, they will have you back in the backyard. And that is the cheapest customer you'll ever get to acquire, is the one you've already got. And so, but that's maintenance coats. You're going to use less stain, and the warranty is designed for you so that you don't have to sell the customer on maintenance. They have to do the maintenance in order to keep their warranty. So hopefully that makes sense. So Al mentioned no brightener on Eco Cleaner. When you're cleaning wood, restoring wood, you want to brighten the Eco Cleaner after the finish. But when you're using Eco Cleaner for maintenance coats, this is a universal rule, and we have to make our products and our rules work for all products, for all stains. So if someone's doing a maintenance cleaning with some other brand of stain, we don't know what's in it. And so what happens is, if you use a brightener on some stained finishes that have iron oxide particles or certain irons, it's not all iron oxides, but it's certain irons in the pigments, the acid can react with it. And it's still wool and vinegar. You know how it'll turn wood a dark black, blue, brown color? That's what can happen. Justen's seen it happen before. I've seen it happen. And even some treatment processes have that in it. We really don't see it much in the treatment, but especially in some stains, you'll get that. So we always say, if you're doing a maintenance cleaning, Eco Clean it, and then wash it. Just rinse it away. And Eco Cleaner it's very mild. It's you can clean your carpet, you can clean your laundry with it, so it's safe. They put it in water that is deprived of oxygen to save the life of fish. So it's really a safe product to use. And so you just dilute it with water and neutralize it with water. All you want to do is remove bird poop, grass clippings, dirt, and any mold or something for a shady spot of the house or something.
But is it fair to expect that the maintenance coat, it will bring more color back into it, but it won't be as clean and as perfect as the first treatment?
Well, the stain is designed, think of penetrating stains. They're oil, and we're putting oil into the wood. The oil protects and preserves the wood. And so the pigment is your fuel gauge. Fuel gauge is over here. When you first do it, the fence or the deck is full. And over time, the sun fades the pigments away. And that's your gauge to know when it starts to fade, it's time to refill the tank. Does that make sense?
Is it fair to say like the maintenance coat won't look as perfect as a freshly washed and sanded?
Yeah, because it's not been sanded. So here's the rule. For you to tell this to your customers, stain highlights the beauty and the ugly of the wood, right? It's going to highlight whatever's there. And so California fence staining contractors, they call me and they say, this customer doesn't want to pay. Why not? Well, the fence board, these two boards look different. And it's like, do you have a picture before the fence was stained? Yeah, those two boards look different. Before, they look different after. So it's going to highlight whatever's there. So if you have knots on your wood, you're going to see it. And so you can choose the colors that you use, transparent for new wood, semi-transparent for everything, semi-solid for older stuff, and do it that way. But it's good to tell your customers it's going to highlight what's there. So if they want it perfect, maybe we need to take it down and sand it every time for maintenance. If they're happy with it looking great, but maybe not as bright as it did on day one, then your standard maintenance would work. You will see probably more pigment stick with Eco Cleaner than Metasilicate.
So Darren well, I'll let Darren tell his story. It's a great one, and we've known him for a few years, and he's got a great business that he'd like to share a little bit about his story with you guys.
My story. Well, that's my company. I'm the owner of First Place Finishing. We're based out of the Kitchener-Waterloo area. But the work does take me to the GTA sometimes and up in the Muskoka and Halburn Highlands. So with various projects. Cut my teeth working for this company for 12 years. They are a pre-finishing company in Ontario, and actually in Waterloo. And what happened at that company is large wholesalers, builders sent their wood and we coated it with whatever they wanted. Architects would spec it, we would put it on. They would put the wood through the machines, and we had solvent, we had water base, didn't matter. 30-foot long curing ovens, we put it through. They also had every kind of coater you can imagine, and we coated wood for people. So a pre-finishing company, pre-staining company. Throughout the years, this one profile kept coming up, and the owner of this company branded it, and now you can buy this in all your lumber yards throughout Ontario, Canada, and now into the US. It's that. And if you've ever seen that up north or in your hardware stores, they do a lot of that in a facility outside of, in Waterloo. So I left there and I worked for this company, Finish Works, and they are owned by the third largest coating company in the world called RPM International. What we did there, I was the operations manager, and they supplied kitchen cabinet and furniture industry with coatings, lacquers, water-based, and solvent. So that was out of Cambridge, Ontario, and they're still there today. I was let go from that company. I was 49 years old. What do? Like, took my severance, living off severance for a bit. Well, at that point in time in my life, I don't know why, but it was tough finding a job. That was in late 2023, and I always wanted to start my own business, and the timing was right. It was finally right. My children were older. I had the blessing of my wife. Let's do it. There's not going to be a better time. I started my company in late 2023, and Al brought me here to talk about kind of real world contractor, how, using the fence lumber products, using the expert stains from my point of view. And these are the things that, from my point of view, hopefully can give you some value and some insight from a contractor, service business owner point of view, because we're all in the allied trades: roofing, power washing, fence building, landscapers. We're all kind of in that mix of companies. First want to talk about, basically, it's an opportunity for anyone that is in the allied trades to make yourself different than the other guy. There's a ton of landscapers, a ton of fence builders, and they're all pretty much doing the same thing. So how do you make yourself different? Well, for me as a stainer, I'm a professional wood care contractor, all I do is staining. I'm not a pressure washer, but I do pressure wash in my business. When I go to sites and you're looking at a fence to restore, you know, I'm seeing the damaged posts. And that's an opportunity for a fence builder or a landscaper to make yourself different. Protect those posts. Fence Armor makes it real easy. They're inexpensive. You incorporate it into your pricing, and you're adding more value to your customer. These fence guards are easy peasy everything is easy to put on. They're made out of metal. They're not plastic. They come in different colors, different sizes. You can put it on any post. This fence here, one of my first jobs, I stained. I had to wait because this 6x6 post, this giant post, was rotted prematurely because of a weed whacker damage. A windstorm came in a week before, and I had to wait a week to do the job until they got that fixed. Fence builders, landscapers, look at the RotGuard, look at the post protection, and incorporate it into your business. Give the customers that option and make yourself a little bit different than the next guy. The other opportunity, I do a lot of horse fences. Horses love to chew posts, and this is a round, protective round for the posts. You can use it on the top and the bottom. And they do come in different colors, and you can see it down there at the bottom. I don't know, it's a little shiny there. You can see it because a lot of builders, a lot of fence builders, and a lot of equestrian, they want their fence posts to look really good. And every week at this farm, they have their landscapers coming in and just weed whacking the heck out of all their posts. You know, and if you want to make it look like the Dutton Ranch, consider these. If anything you can get out today with these products from Fence Armor, there's an opportunity. So whether you take it or not, it's up to you. You're the business owners, but it'll make you a little bit different than the next guy. One of the last things I want to talk about, it's a brush. This is the Fence Armor brush. I use it on staining. It holds stain and it lasts long. I've used, in my 3 years of business, probably 2. I used one for water-based and I had one for solid. It just holds stain a lot easier, and they last a lot longer than something you buy in a big box store. Take it for what it's worth. I use it a lot, and you can definitely cover more boards with one of these than you are doing it yourself. I don't do a lot of spraying of decks. I use the brush. It's just, with all the houses in Canada, they're all, you know, close together. The liability of spraying is, well, it can lead to problems. I do have that machine. That is from our job site, and this speeds up staining like you wouldn't believe. What you're looking at there is 5,000 feet of tongue and groove pine, stained all sides, and the runtime through the machine was 3.5 hours. Now, when we got to the site, once we figured out all the logistics of where we're going to work, we literally had the machine on the side of this build. We could have done it inside if it was raining. Now, I think there was a question earlier, you know, about dripping and, you know, is there going to be any type of, if you look here, when the boards come out, it does drip a little bit. The customer didn't care. It's outside. It's on rocks. It's not going to last. But if you're inside, if you're in a facility, yeah, you want to put down some drop sheets, okay? This is going to lead into the expert stain in a little bit, but the stain doesn't stick. We were leaning, these are 16 feet long, random length, and we're just leaning up on the rocks, right on top of each other. You can't do that with a water-based stain. It's a full stop. You can't. This stain, you can. It doesn't leave fingerprints. It doesn't stick and block. And we took this in the house the next day for the customer, and I think that was on the Friday, and they were banging it up. They put it up on the Monday. Okay, so you're taking weeks off a customer's build. So once I finally convinced the builder to go with us and to do the pre-staining, the job it went better than I hoped. So I was very, very happy about that. If anyone has any questions. And that's the finished product. So it looks pretty good. You can also do other dimensional lumber through it. This is half log siding. It can accommodate very different profiles. It doesn't just have to be dimensional lumber. So just keep that in mind. And there's the Fence Armor brush. The post cap. I do want to talk about this a little bit because it is a little bit different than all the cheap ones you see in the big box stores. This is real metal, right?
Not made in China.
That's right. So most likely this post cap which is originally green and is plastic, it gets brittle in the sun and loses its color. That won't. And it can accommodate different posts, where this one, you hope it fits, and this one with the cap claw design on it, you know, it's not coming off. So I just wanted to touch base on that as well. Another, I guess, upsell opportunity, or another opportunity when you go to a site, you know, keep in mind, and they have this beautiful fennels you can put on top as well. So that's just a little bit about the Fence Armor products. See it as an opportunity for your business, okay? We were talking about maintenance coats. So when I first started my business, I knew a lot about exterior staining, interior staining. I didn't know much about cleaning the wood itself. So it was scary. The expert cleaning products make it easy peasy. They have the eco cleaner, the wood cleaner, and the wood stripper, and now they have that new one coming out. I'm really dying to try. It was easy for me. The ratio, like when I started out, it's a pump sprayer. That's what I still use. Down the road, maybe I'll look at a NextJet or something else, but right now it's still a pump sprayer. And they make it easy. It's blue, a cup per gallon. It's easy to do. And when I first started out, I was masking everything. I was very afraid of the chemicals getting on siding, plants, everything. I masked like a madman. But I learned with confidence after using it a few times, wetting the wood, wetting the bricks, the property, it's just as easy. And I'm finding it's a lot easier than, sometimes I mask still, but most of the time I'm just wetting and rinsing afterwards. Wetting, you know, after I pressure wash it. What you see in there in the picture, that is before and after of a maintenance coat. So I use the eco cleaner, and I basically just put it on with a pump sprayer, and I use the garden hose just to wash it off. And there was the maintenance coat afterwards. I brushed it on and wiped it off. So that's an example. This is the example of the eco cleaner on a little landing up north that was just covered in algae. And you can see the reaction. It'll fuzz up, it'll bubble up, turn white, and that's how you know it's working. This is, gosh, it's 30-year-old fence, and with the cleaning products, you can definitely make it look a lot better. Okay, that's after it's been cleaned and stained. Again, if you look at this is a deck up north. This is probably the worst deck I've ever seen. The cleaning products, we use eco cleaner and the wood cleaner on this one. It was just so bad, but it took care of the job. It, you know, cleaned off the wood pretty good. And there's the wood clean. This deck turned out really nice. There you go. The chemicals do the work. You apply it, you dwell, you rinse off, and you don't need a crazy pressure washer. If you pressure washers looked at my pressure washer, you'd laugh. It's so small, but you don't need a ton of pressure. Okay? Let the chemicals do the work. And using the right tip, you're not using a turbo nozzle, you can get and make the wood look really good. Here's another one. This is all cedar up here. There's after, there's before, after, before. And there's a good example of one side cleaned, one side still dirty. Just as a caveat, when you use the wood cleaner on cedar, it goes dark and black. And don't worry, you can wash it off and you can clean it. The next day, you come up and stain it. Another opportunity, sometimes there's wood furniture. This is a teak bench. This is a perfect example of looking around your job site. Hey, do you want that playground equipment cleaned or this teak bench cleaned? This is an example of the wood cleaner in action. Before and after, you can see all the stages. Wood brightener to the stain, dried, and there it is. So getting to this stain, I've sprayed and coated a ton of wood, and I didn't believe, after watching the videos online, what the stain would do. I just didn't believe it. You can apply it every kind of which way. It'll self-level and still look good. You know, if you're using a water-based stain, you can't get away with that. This is a couple weeks ago in Tennessee, you know, Caleb doing a demonstration of the stain. You would never, ever, ever do this with a water-based. You're just asking for trouble. That's how it turned out. Do you see any lap marks? Do you see any drip runs? No, it's just into the wood. One of the good things about this stain is, like you said, it wipes off gate hardware, conduit, anything kind of metal. Try getting stain in there with a water-based stain. You're gonna make a mess of things. With the expert stain, you can literally punk your brush in there, let it drip down, and it's just going to wick down and cover the boards. And you're not going to make a mess. And if it gets on anything, you just wipe it off like that. Pre-staining. These are some pickets. I'm not a fan of sanding these wood pickets, but you see them everywhere. They're kind of a pain. So I'm like, tell the customer, look, you can either spend a ton of money in sanding those off in labor. If they want to pay that, that's fine. But I'd rather replace them. It's cheaper. So I pre-stained these in my garage, and there was like, I think at this point in that job, there was about 80 of them. Brought them out when I was pretty much done staining and just reinstalled them. Real easy. The stain is so good, it'll go through the other side of the boards. So be aware of that. Okay, it's not a film former. It'll soak through those knots. There is a way you can brush to mitigate that. Also, in the timber line, you have this. So when you open up a can of that whitewash, that had that citronella smell in it, but it's a nice smell. It's not like a solvent smell, and it does work. And if you don't think that these carpenter bees, which I never heard of until a customer had them. I did a black pergola 2 years ago, and the lady was sitting down in her sawdust lines on her outdoor kitchen. And she's like, what is that from? She didn't know about carpenter bees either. They exist, and they make a mess of your pergola, 1x10s or 2x10s, 2x8s. So this you can just easily put in your stains. Doesn't have to be the timberline oil stain, but know that it exists and it does work. And that is it. It's my dog. Any questions? I know it went really quick.
How do you find cleaning the machine?
With the oil-based stain,
Yeah.
I just give it a wipes with rags. When I get home, I can give it a pressure wash, right? Paint through the machine, a little bit different. You want to clean it up as quick as you can. Water-based paints will make it look not as nice as this. If you saw my machine right now, it doesn't look that clean, but it's well used.
And then the brushes and rollers, do you change those out for every stain, or do you clean them after and use them for another color or product?
So for the oil-based stains, you can literally take out the brushes and rollers, put them in a 5-gallon pail, and let's say if you're doing white again, you just leave it for a next white job. If you're doing black, keep black away from everything else. But if it's a cedar type color, cedar, pecan, all those kind of colors that are similar, I would wring them out as best you can, but you can probably just reuse them, because once you saturate everything with that particular color, it's going to take on that color pretty quickly. Water-based, you're cleaning those as soon as you can.
What we suggest to you guys, if you're going to get the stain machine, and again, there's a lot of value in that machine. I know it's $4,000 US, but it's 8,000 Canadian, whatever it is. Sorry, just kidding. But, based on the peso of today, it's well worth it. But what I suggest to some, I just got off the phone actually with a guy just a few minutes ago in Washington, D.C. area, West Virginia, and he's looking at it for a small lumber mill on his property, and he wants to pre-stain the wood that he gets out of his mill, and he has several different colors. So what I suggested is he buy a refill kit for each color. So he's going to use Expert Stain now. He was using something else we don't want to talk about. But if you put Varsol or turpentine or mineral spirits in there, I have this little handy bucket here, and there's brushes and rollers in here. So if you imagine having redwood color and whitewash or black, now you can take it back out. So it's worth having a variety. If you're always using the same one and it's oil-based, like Darren says, you don't really have to worry too much about it. If it's water, you're screwed. You've got to clean them up really well and so forth. But if you're oil-based and you have that sealed up with a little bit of Varsol and you're using that same color again next time, you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, so for me, I have a set of oil rollers and a set of water-based. So I have 2 sets.
Regarding the machine for pre-staining, what is your customer? How do you acquire those customers?
Yeah, so it's a challenge to get through the front desk sometimes. There's definitely a market out there. The first customer I acquired through it was through a trade show. He was right beside me, and he was a builder. And so I'm like, yes, So when trade shows get slow, what do? You talk to your neighbor, right? So we're all talking business, and he asked, what do you do, and how do you do it, and do you do this color? I'm like, yeah, in fact, I do the white. I can do the whitewash color, and you can either do it on site, or you can put it through the staining machine. He's like, staining machine? It's like, yeah. So I showed him a video, and you can see the light bulb going off. A couple weeks later, he gives me a call. Hey, Darren, I think I want to try you out, and that's exactly what happened. So there's bigger builders out there, sometimes it's just hard to nail them down. There's a lot of construction associations you can join where you can meet these builders, and then you're talking to them one-on-one. So it's really old school networking.
But you focus mostly on builders when it comes to this staining machine?
Yeah, fence builders, larger wholesalers, so wood wholesalers, and builders. So you try to network and join part of a lot of networking groups that you're in front of these builders. You try to be, and trade shows, going to trade shows and talking to the people. And sometimes, trade shows, they don't give you the time of day. Sometimes they do. I've got a lot of good customers that way, just going around and talking and meeting people. So, yeah, hopefully that explains it. That's the plan. That's the hope, right? They come in and repeat, and you use you all the time.
We have a question
Yep.
on the live stream, actually.
What is it?
Are you staining fencing boards straight from the lumber yard? And if you stain them, do you have to wait for them to dry before you unstone from the yard?
Can I stain them from? You can if they're dry. So unfortunately, in the Canadian market, when you go to the big box stores, they can sometimes be dripping wet, and you have to wait till moisture is to a certain point, 13%, and you're good to go. So unfortunately, you go into the big box store, you can literally put your hand on some of these boards, and they're just soaking wet still. They're left outside in the yard, or they come back from wherever they get treated, and they're still wet. So unfortunately, you have to wait.
Green lumber, I'll double down on that. So most of your siding, cedar siding, tongue and groove things, you're going to make a better margin on that side of the aisle. Fencing is a commodity. Fencing is cheap. The fence guys know it. It's the name of the game in the fencing business is to get your material at the best price possible so you can compete. Millwork is different, or the fancy stuff's different. So that stuff generally it's generally cedar or some pine, and it's kiln dried. And so that stuff, you can stain it right away. In the fencing market, lumber typically comes green. Dimensional lumber is going to be green if it's not kiln dried or for studs, interior use. And so you can down stack it and sticker it. You can do that. You can put fans on it if you got time. You got a fence guy. Maybe you've got a customer for your fence company that has 100 feet of a really decorative garden fence that they want to do. You can say, hey, we're going to have to down stack it. We're going to dry it. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks for it to dry with fans on it. We're going to have to touch it a couple times. You can charge for that, and there's plenty of room to charge for that and still be competitive. But what we do in the States is kiln dried fencing material, specifically Japanese cedar, is very popular. It's very common. It's a little bit more expensive than treated pine, but most of your pre-stained fencing in the States is kiln dried Japanese cedar. And the way the fence companies sell it is they give you a quote for a pine fence, and they say, we guarantee this fence is going to warp, crack, and twist because it's a natural product. It's green, it's wet. As soon as it dries out, it's gonna do the movement. And so then they give a quote to stain that fence in the field. In the States, the going rate's $10 to $12 a linear foot, or roughly $1, 90 cents to $1 per square foot. Same numbers. And so here's the price for the fence, here's the price to stain it. And by the way, we can upgrade you to a cedar fence that's pre-stained for about the same price you would pay, or sometimes slightly less than the stained in the field pine fence. So you get a cedar and you get pre-stained. And that's the way the market's moving in the States. And so that's a way. What we notice is the best guys in each market tend to be trendsetters, and they go out and they offer something like that. It's an upgrade. It's harder to source. You can't just go to the big box store and get it, but they can offer something in their market that differentiates them. We have one contractor in West Virginia. He's installed about 45,000 feet of our pre-stained lumber. We have a pre-stained lumber line that we manufacture as well, and they've had 0 callbacks in 2 years on those. 0 callbacks. And their pine fences, they completely stopped pine because they got so many callbacks on it. And so, there you go. But yeah, you can dry it if you want, but kiln dried lumber is the way to go.
Just wanted to let the fence guys know that Home Depot is now carrying kiln dried premium lumber, like for boards only. So no framing, no posts, but boards. So if you're doing the little garden fence at the premium downtown lot, that's maybe an opportunity where they're already dried, they're more premium, and they definitely look nicer side by side, and they are dry.
I was going to mention, yes, there is that now, and some fence builders actually have kiln dried for their dimensional lumber. They're higher end builders, they're higher end fence builders, but they are out there as opposed to getting it from, you know, the big box stores where it's all wet sometimes.
And again, the maintenance. You can, all these fences that go in pre-stained or decking that goes pre-stained, it will need maintenance. And so a lot of times you can lock in pretty much a lifetime plan, repeat business with these customers.
There is lumber wholesalers besides the big box stores. You can do some research into it. Pretty strong going up to cottage country as well. There's some players out there that can probably supply you with some good kill and dried lumber for, you know, if you're going to build a premium fence or premium deck, go talk to those guys because they can source it for you.
So some of the people you can go to for this, again, are going to be general contractors, builders, fence builders, deck builders, cabin builders, especially people that do cabins with siding, like the quarter round logs and not quarter round, but, you know, round face logs. You're in the capital of the world for cedar. I don't know if you guys know that. I'm sure you do, but all of the cedar we get in the States comes mostly from Canada. And so you guys, people are already used to it here. So again, how to get more business is just to go to see these people that are building these type of things. I'll put it like this. One good customer can make a huge difference in your bottom line every month by just having one builder send you these projects.
And for this machine here, like you said earlier, you know, I'm not doing anything in January, December. I had a job in January using this machine. If I didn't have this machine, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So there is definitely opportunities out there. You know, think of like the areas you live in, cottage country, Niagara region. You know, there's wineries everywhere around there, right? You go in these beautiful winery areas, it's all wood. You know, it's just, you got to sometimes think out the box, but, you know, and find out where these customers are.
Now, a lot of you guys are probably going to expect that I would say you should buy the machine today while you're here. That's not what this is about. To me, this is about building a business that's more sustainable so you can keep your employees over the winter and you don't have to start from scratch. Because a lot of guys, they'll hire 3 or 4 or 5 guys, and then November comes around and they go, well, guys, I'm out of work. I got to let you go. I have always, my whole life, in the service business, in the fence business, and the staining business, it was feast or famine. I either had money or I didn't, right? Sound like you guys? And so I made the decision I was going to keep my team members on all year long. And it hurt, even when it hurt, right? Even if we didn't have enough work to cover the payroll, I covered it. So I started looking for things to make money. I had to pay these guys. And so pre-staining is it. But I tend to be a gambler. I've never gambled at a casino, but I've done lots of business gambles. So what I would do is I'd go sell the job. I would talk to people. I would say, hey, if you've got a small thing, set it up on sawhorses, brush, roll it, build yourself a water trough and dip your boards in it. You can dip stain. You probably dip stain spindles before you had this. There's a lot of ways to do pre-finishing. And then maybe you get a couple jobs under your belt and then somebody calls and says, hey, I got 8,000 square feet of tongue and groove that I need done. Quote it. When you get it, go get the machine. You know, get the job first is what I recommend. That's the way I always did it. Some people are going to invest first and then go try to build the market later. I go build the market, get myself some work, get some leads, and then I go, well, I got a job. I'm gonna get the machine. And I love the idea of having them bring the lumber to you. I'm gonna stain your lumber. You have no cost in the lumber. The only cost you have is your labor and materials and a little storage. If you're paying rent, you can calculate that. But that's a lot better business model, in my opinion, than you buying the lumber, sitting on it, paying for the lumber, and then hoping you can sell it to somebody. Which if you get big enough doing that, you may want to do that and just say, hey, we got it in stock. If you need 200 feet of fence, brown, I got it. Come get it. But to start, have them bring the lumber to you, or you guys sell it to one of your customers before you do the install, and then just stain it in the shop a couple days before you build it. It's a great way to get started.
So this machine is the whole reason why I started my business. When I was looking, I wanted a pre-stain. I wanted to have a shop and everything, but long story. But I was looking for a machine, and that's why I found Caleb online, and then linked me up with Al. That machine, I wanted it right away because I know there's a market for pre-staining. I couldn't buy it right away starting a business. I had to wait. I had to talk to the builder. We finally convinced him, okay, got signed quote. All right, Al, I'm getting the machine. I'm getting the whitewash. It's done. The first job paid for that machine.
So a $4,000 machine, raise your hand if it seems kind of pricey. It does. It seems like an expensive machine. It does, because an airless sprayer you can buy for $200, right? And this is $4,000. The thing that makes this machine so wonderful is that anybody else that is in the pre-finishing business, all the places you used to work at, those machines to do the same job start at about $100,000, and they go up from there. And so this machine gives you the ability to do almost the same thing they do without spending the big bucks on it. The only difference is it's not powered. And so the machines you're used to, you put the board in, it sucks it through, right? Well, how many of you guys have seen power feeds, like for running through a table saw or through a shaper or a planer? You can put a power feeder on there, couple of $100. You can put a power feeder in front of this thing, and as soon as you push the board in, it'll suck it right through. And the key to running a machine like this, and Darren will probably agree because he's got a lot of experience in this, it's not how fast will the machine go, it's how consistent can you be. And so you want, and if you've got a power feeder, what it gives you the ability to do is have your boards go through the machine end to end. And so it's much better to have your boards going through in a nice, smooth fashion rather than a lot of the powered machines, the guys that sell them, they like to show off how fast it'll go. So they've got a guy feeding the machine, and they'll run a board through and it'll go at 80 miles an hour through, and then they wait and they get another one. But this machine creates a waterfall, and it doesn't make sense, but if your boards are separated, the ends don't get coated. But if the boards are touching, the ends get coated, and so you get a much better, smoother finished product when you go end to end on the machine.
So that's a pool of stain that's ahead of the board being squished by the rollers, so it's getting totally saturated. So to your point, Caleb, yeah, starting machines, powered machines, the cheapest one you could probably find is like $35,000. Okay, and then you're getting into a big facility. You're talking 50 grand. And it won't do anything like a 4x12.
And those machines in that price range lack something to be desired.
Yeah, and they're all coming from Europe and Italy.
Yeah, if you buy
Germany.
a $50,000 machine, you'll go, well, when in a couple years we'll go ahead and get the bigger one.
Yeah,
because they just tend to have. I've had the Italian machines. You've probably used them, and there's always something just you don't love about it.
So hopefully you can see some opportunities in your own business. We can go, take it from there. Take it home, give some thought, and it's done well for me. And I'm not, a couple of years ago I was crawling in my business. I was new, actually I was just born, and now I'm jogging a little bit now. Am I running now? No, but the snowball has been pushed down the hill, and it's just going to get bigger. It's not stopping. I'm all in, and hopefully things here you see today can add value to your businesses and make it more profitable and more opportunities down the road.
I got one thing to add. It's probably not the best time to add it, speaking about that, how many of you get your feelings hurt if somebody says no? Yeah. Yeah, okay, fair enough. So when I was riding in the truck, you guys spend a lot of time behind the wheel, don't you? Driving from job to job, from quote to quote. I took that opportunity. If I wasn't listening to a book or something, trying to get better or smarter, I was calling. I would call everybody in my phone book just to check in with them. All the contractors, all the fence builders, all the deck builders, all the power washers. I would text them, I would call them. And every mile on the road, that's what I was doing. And what happens is eventually people, when you build a fence, probably not every single job, but a lot of jobs, the homeowner comes out, they pay you, they're happy, thank you for building it. Hey, by the way, when should I stain this, and who should I use to stain it or whatever? And most fence guys, they go, I don't know, I'm into building fences. But if you're the guy that has called the fence guy 14 times over the last 18 months, you've sent him a few pictures of jobs you've done. I loved when I saw a fence, when we would stain a fence with a contractor sign on it. I would stain the fence, I'd wipe the sign down, then I'd take a photo and I'd send them a picture of their fence with my stain on it, and I'd say, that stain looks good on your fences, something simple as that. And I want to get into their minds so when they do get the question, that they're going to think of me. And so the point here is, you said your business isn't quite where you want it yet. Nobody's business is probably quite where they want it. And the best way to do that is to get out and be known. So many people focus so much on what's the best marketing for my business. Where do I need to spend my marketing dollars? And I've spent a ton of money on marketing. A ridiculous amount. Our ads account got hacked and our ads went down for a month and we saw no change in our sales. And that got me thinking, am I throwing this money away? And so we started polling all of our customers, and our 40%, it's our number one way we get business is word of mouth. And that fluctuates from 38 to 45%. And so you would think it'd be Google, you'd think it'd be AdWords. They're in there, Facebook's in there, but it's like 12%. And but we're spending all our money there on the 12% when we should really be spending our time, which is time is valuable, but it's in some ways cheaper, especially if you do it in your spare time, to talk to people. You can't get canceled. And you know, if you talk to, a great way to think about marketing your business is go talk to an 80-year-old man who's been a contractor or in a service business his whole life, and ask, hey, in 1960, what did you do to get business? And they said, oh, well, you know, we went to the cafe and ate lunch every day. What do you mean? You got, well, everybody was there. We talked to them. They saw our trucks. You know, everybody knew us. We were the fence guy, or we were the deck builder, or the home builder. And that's the way they did things. And so I think there's going to be a big push or a big reward for people who remember that we're humans and we go talk to people. We shake people's hands. We drop off business cards. If you're having trouble getting through gatekeepers when you're calling people, cold calling, does anybody have that trouble? When you start calling people, let's say if I want to call this fence company, chances are the boss, I'm not going to get them on the phone. Some we call it that lady. Sorry, ladies. There's that lady who's like, nope, you ain't talking to the boss. He's busy. So what I would do, and I still do this, and I'll call big companies, and I will have a slight bit of urgency in my voice, and I will name myself. So if somebody answers the phone, I'm trying to get a hold of Al, but I don't know Al, but I know who he is because I've done a little research. I just call, sound a little bit urgent. I say, hey, it's Caleb. Is Al in the office? Because I want a little thing in the back of their mind going, oh, this guy sounds like he knows Al, and it sounds urgent. If I don't, I better give him the phone, because this could be important. And I do that. I'll do it all the time. And 9 times out of 10, I hope this isn't going on the internet so everybody hears this, but 9 times out of 10, that will get you through the gatekeeper. Where a traditional salesperson, he's calling, he gets the gatekeeper, he's introducing himself, I'm here with so-and-so, whatever. No, none of that. This is Caleb. Is Bill in? I need to talk to him. That will work. And so as you're trying to get in and talk to these people, do that. And again, don't forget hey, I do this, you do that, we should be friends. Our businesses work together. And so I think if ever one of you leaves here, goes back to your town, if you're a fence builder, you just call all your old customers, right? You don't need to work with other fence companies, but you could for staining. If you're a wood care guy, though, I would call everybody in your market that has anything to do that touches any kind of wood and introduce them. Same with power washing, it's no different. If you call every HOA, call every apartment complex, call every restaurant, call every gas station, and tell them who you are, eventually those things will build your business up. You just got to be not afraid to hear no, because I look at no as usually a maybe. So I keep calling. But I will tell people, hey, is this no, not right now, bad timing, or is this no, absolutely not, never? And I actually like to hear no, because the more I hear no, the closer I get to a yes with somebody. And so another advice for selling, if you're calling people, it's kind of a psychological thing that I learned years ago. Apparently, it is when you have to say yes to someone on the phone, your body has some sort of a stress a little bit, because you don't want to say yes, especially if a salesperson's calling you. And so you ask a no question. And when someone says no to you, they're in control. Whether they know it or not, you feel in control. So every time I call someone, if I call my mother, I'm so practiced, I just do this every single time, and it's polite. I say, hey, this is Caleb. Did I catch you at a bad time? And what do most people say? They either say, yeah, can you call me back in 15 minutes? Or they say, no, it's a good time. And if they say no, it's a good time, they've relaxed, they've settled down, they can hear what I've got to say. And so that's a call with urgency if you're trying to cold call some people. And if you're calling somebody maybe you already know, ask them if it's a bad time, and they'll open up to you. Make some noise for Darren up here.
What's the brush sound like? No, it doesn't work. Jobber is going to be coming up.
Yeah, appreciate you guys letting me come here. Obviously, my name's Garrett. I'm coming from Jobber. Been at Jobber for about 5 years now. Gonna walk you guys through a little bit about who we are at Jobber, what we do, why people use the software, and specifically a field service management software, and then how Jobber can obviously kind of help your business there. We'll do a little bit of a customer testimonial, chat a little bit about someone here who's using Jobber, and quick Q&A. Just to dive into it, so Jobber is a field service management platform for home service businesses. We've been around since 2011. We're one of the earliest players in the market. We've been around a long time, trusted by over 350,000 service professionals. Basically any industry where you are quoting, you're scheduling, you're invoicing, you're getting paid, and you're out in the field providing a mobile service, you're going to be a good fit for Jobber. We're going to take that entire workflow, put it all into one software, save you a ton of time, help you really grow your business there. But just to really show like the impact of Jobber, who we work with, and what we've done here, over 27 million households in 60 different countries have been served by a Jobber-powered business, $15 billion invoiced through the app. So all across the world, mainly Canada and the US, just kind of shows the overall impact of who we've really worked with. A lot of times people ask about Jobber or different softwares. They refer to them as a CRM. Now, Jobber does have CRM aspects to it, but really more of a field service management platform. So CRM a bit secondary, FSM is that main concept there. And what a FSM and what a field service management platform does is it helps you improve your communication with the field, whether that's scheduling, whether that's dispatching, client communication. It's going to increase your productivity. It's going to save you a ton of time on your admin work, streamline your entire workflow there, and then it's going to help you like enhance your customer service, enhance that experience that you're providing your customers. So really modernizing your business and saving time on a ton of those tedious tasks there. So just a little bit of a look of what Jobber looks like and kind of what we do here. We've got basically two aspects to it. We've got the desktop version, help you run your business. Maybe you have an office admin, maybe whoever it is working on the main software there. We also have a mobile app so you can take your business on the go. You have it out in the field. You can send quotes, invoices out in the field as well. And a lot of the feedback we get as well is being able to work on your business, maybe not in your business as much. Maybe you want to take a step away. You want to take a weekend vacation. Being able to take your business on the go, you can see where your guys are at any given point. You can still quote. You can still take a look at your business without having to be, right on your exact computer in your office there. Allows you to really run things kind of full scale there. But this is what Jobber looks like. We've spent a lot of time building out this mobile app. It's a huge component to the software. And really those are the two kind of key pieces there. And then just walking through what Jobber does and where we help out. So like I mentioned, home service businesses follow a very similar workflow. This is basically what Jobber is going to do. Right when you get that incoming service request, it's going to help take that request. It's going to help you quote, send out an estimate there. It's going to keep track of your customers and your jobs. So that's kind of that CRM function. Maybe not the main point of it, but we still do have that CRM capability. It's going to help you schedule and dispatch your team. Make that as easy as possible. Now, it won't help you complete the work, but once you do complete the work, it'll allow you to invoice and get paid much more effectively, as well as give you a ton of different reporting to see the overall health of your business. So along the way here, there's a ton of different automations that are going to save you a lot of time on these tasks. It's going to help you get paid quicker with, invoice follow-ups, or going to help you follow up on quotes, different things like that to really help you obviously scale your business there. So now let's dive into a little bit of why use Jobber, and specifically like why use a software. A lot of people use pen and paper. I know I've chatted with some people here today who are using pen and paper, but why are people starting to modernize their business and get into this software space? There's just a few statistics that our team pulled here a couple years ago, really pointing out that seamless operations matter to your customers, and they're starting to matter more in this economy as we're becoming more convenience-based economy, providing more of a experience on top of the services you provide. So 88% of people say the experience a company provides is as important as the services it's providing. 65% of people want to buy from companies that offer quick and easy transactions. And 62% of people say their expectations of one industry are influenced onto other industries. So think about recently, anytime maybe you've used Uber, how easy it is to order an Uber, take a rideshare program, how easy it is to order Uber Eats. Think about how you're interacting with other industries. That's starting to become a little bit more common in the home service space with contractors and a ton of different industries, and modernizing your business is something that people are starting to lean into there. So that's really what Jobber is going to help out with in any sort of field service management platform there. And just to kind of dive into it, going to dive into kind of four main things of what a software is going to help with, and specifically what Jobber will help your business with. I know I've mentioned them a couple times, but we'll go a little bit in depth here. Those are going to help you win more jobs. Going to help you increase that client experience. Going to help you win back your time, which is probably the biggest thing with a software, and it's going to help you get paid faster there. So as far as winning more jobs, allowing you to get back to potential customers as fast as possible. A lot of times there's a common saying, speed to lead. So when you get that incoming request, how easy can you set up that on-site assessment to go out and send out a quote? Maybe you have a quote template that you've made based on that request form. You can easily send that quote on and try to win that job right away there and have them approve it online immediately. You're not going back and forth in your email. It's all through the system. It's a lot more automated and it's a very sophisticated look there, as well as just making your quotes look very professional. So having an online portal for your customers to log into, all your line items built into the platform, super easy to build out a very nice professional quote to send out, as opposed to maybe pen and paper or whatever that may look like. And a key feature here at Jobber that helps you win more jobs is our quote follow-up feature. So you send out quotes. I know a lot of times things are super busy. You've got a ton of different jobs. Are you always following up on your quotes? Are you always winning more work? Are you maximizing, the effort that you're putting into those quotes? Jobber will automatically follow up on those quotes for you. You're just doing your regular day-to-day. There might be quotes that you didn't follow up on or would have forgot to follow up on. Jobber's following up. They're approving those. You're winning more work on the go there, basically, without having to put in any more effort. So that's a big feature here in the platform. And then diving into that, delivering the experience that your customers want. So I mentioned how we're in a lot more of like a convenience-based economy. Customers' expectations are growing, especially as the new generation is coming up, starting to be homeowners, starting to be looking for these services here. They're looking for that experience, and they're looking for that from your business. So, are you sending out automated reminders to your customer to let them know who's coming to the job, to let them know what time they're coming to the job? Are you sending out different automated emails or different emails to your customers to educate them and maybe build a little bit of a little bit further than just like a transactional relationship with those customers there? Jobber's going to help you do all of that. And yeah, just diving into the email campaign. So this is a feature that we offer here in Jobber. It's a newer feature and huge success so far. So you can send off one-off emails. Maybe you're sending out happy holiday email. You want to be, nice and friendly. Maybe you've set up an automated email that every time send out a quote, you don't win that quote, 6 months later, it's automatically sending up an email saying, hey, remember that quote I sent you? Is now the time, to go ahead with that project that we talked about. A lot that you can do with that, and always being top of mind in their inbox as well there as they're looking back for, quotes and looking to get help on their work there. So moving on to just taking back your time. So I used to work on our sales team here at Jobber. One of our biggest things that we used to always push from our own data, we see on average people save 7 hours a week using Jobber. So how much do you value, your work, your time? How much do you value your time? And with that, what could you do with 7 hours back in your week? Do you want to spend more time with friends and family? Do you want to go do more jobs, make more money? Whatever that looks like, do you want to do nothing? Do you want to just relax? That's a lot of time, obviously, that you can get back from using a system like Jobber. And I mentioned already a lot of those automated reminders that are going to go out, make it super efficient there. But even just dispatching your crew, assigning jobs to them in the mobile app, you don't have to every day tell them this is where you're going, sending them a text, sending them updates all the time. You assign them the job, they open up their mobile app, they see where they're going for the day, they go out and go and complete the job there. So saves you a ton of time there. Basically streamlines that entire process. Like I mentioned, one big thing to take away, 7 hours a week that you get back there by using a software like Jobber. Diving into some of those automated reminders that go out, this kind of even double dips into like the customer experience where you can send out different automated emails and texts for on-site assessments, for jobs, let them know when you're on your way there. Just always like giving your customer a good client experience. It's not something you have to worry about sending those out. You set up the template in Jobber. You set up the frequency you want those to go out at. It's automatically going to go out to those customers how you set it up and just create a better experience and take a lot of that admin work off your hands there. So moving on to getting paid faster. So credit card processing, taking credit cards, it's definitely something that's being kind of slowly adopted in the home service space. We see on average you get paid 4 times faster by taking a credit card as opposed to taking cash or check. Think about any time you have worked with a different industry, a different service, how easy it was to pay through Apple Pay, through Google Pay. Are you more likely to go with someone that you maybe had to go find checks, write a check, give them the check, put the check under the mat? Or are you going to go with someone that you could easily pay as quick as possible? Personally, I own checks. I couldn't tell you where they are. Every time I need to, get a new check, I order a brand new checkbook. So if I can pay Google Pay, Apple Pay, easy enough, and on with my day. That also gets you paid faster. Weekends, holidays, you can take payments as opposed to cash or check, having to go out, take a lot of time collecting those there. So big component of the software, making it as easy as possible to really take those payments. So you can actually take tips as well, and just making it obviously as easy as possible. Just to recap, the 4 main things there: Jobber's going to help you win more jobs, going to help you deliver the experience your customers want, helps you take back your time, helps you get paid faster, and obviously help modernize your business quite a bit there. So if anyone's interested just to start a trial, you can scan that. It goes through a Fence Armor landing page there. You can set up a trial. But I do want to ask Andre here if he could take a moment to come up here. He is one of our power users with Jobber. I had the chance to speak with him last week over the phone. I know I can tell you all about Jobber, but I figured it'd be good to kind of chat with someone who's used Jobber, has a great experience with Jobber as well. So Andre, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your business, what you guys do, and then maybe kind of key features you're using with Jobber and kind of how it elevated your business there.
Reintroduction, Andre from Post to Fence. This is not a paid advertisement. We just love using Jobber. So we've been using it for 3 years now, and it might save you 7 hours a week, but you're gonna use them on your business, and you use it to make more business. For us, at the end of the day, it's about getting quickly to your client. So in the past, I've missed out on great jobs because I didn't get back to people quick enough. People didn't feel like I was there, getting their message, getting their quote, and making them feel heard soon enough. And then by the time I called them back 3 or 4 days later to give them a quote, they've already booked a job with someone else. And so I'll give you an example. While we were here at the Fence Armor Academy, I've got a new request here from someone who left a voice message who's looking for a fence quote, someone who met me at the home show who's doing a follow-up, and my automated AI receptionist took those notes from my phone, put them as a request in Jobber, and told the client, we're gonna get back to them. We're just on another line, but we'll get you a quote or we'll address you by the end of the day. And so when people know that you're there for them, when you're getting them a quote really quickly, that gets you the business. They don't put down the phone, call the next guy on the list, and book a job with them. So you're still in the game. How it makes it easy for us, I have quote templates. You want to do a fence post install? I literally click 6x6 template. It shows the size of the hole, the obstructions that could exist, pictures, the descriptions, call for locates, anything under the sun, a lumber discount that I'm getting them. I make the template look sweet. I make it look so good that they're thinking that I've spent a lot of time on every single quote, which I'm not. The template's there. It's a rinse and repeat. Our business is the same. Every time it's the same. We're offering the same service that we're really good at, and you get a chance to make a good template that you send out for us 100 to 200 times per month. To have someone on board to do that every single quote would take forever. And then at the end of the day, does an automated follow-up. People respond to the automated follow-up saying, I'm still speaking with my neighbor Jim, I'll get back to you shortly. And at the end of the day, you know that you're there. The bigger thing for me is that it tells you when the clients open the quote. So I got a big juicy job, $100,000 deck. Why didn't Jim open the quote yet? He was eager, he wanted it, I sent it to him. I can call him, say, hey Jim, just following up, I wanna make sure that quote didn't end up in your spam folder, that you got it, I didn't mistype your email. And he's like, oh man, you know what, you're right, I was waiting for it. It is in my spam folder, or you did mistype my email. And so we've saved so much business knowing when you got a good client, whether they got the quote or not. And then secondly, when they open the quote, you know that it's a good time to give them a few minutes and to follow up with them. You can tell they've opened it 3 or 4 times. And then it's like, you know they're looking at your quote, they're shopping someone else, give them a call, like give them the personal touch. And that's been really helpful to us. Jobber is putting in new features. Like while we're at this presentation, they're adding new features to the business. And so if you want to stay on top of your business, they're adding new stuff. And like the Jobber community is great. Just the same way we're all here together trying to figure out how we can feed off of each other and make our businesses better, Jobber's doing the same thing. If I've got a question, like my telephone system wasn't hooked up with Jobber, I put an actual message on the Jobber board and 10 people are telling me how they're doing it with their business. So it's like you have a community of people to help you. You're not on your own. It's a good software. And at the end of the day, we just want to do good business. For the stain guy who's here, I actually send out an email right now 30 days after I close a job that says, please stain your fence so that I don't have to come and look at it and tell you why it's cracked and not looking good. And I leave it at that because I just don't want to deal with, having someone not treat their fence, not treat it well, and that look bad on me. It's like after today, I'm thinking about, how can I get the staining products? And that staining service is something I can offer now, automated. So 30 days after I close, let's do something about the staining. Here's someone I can refer you to. And so there's just unlimited ways of making your job easier, making you more money, or even just making you look better. We get Google reviews now. You finish a job, it sends them a request for a Google review. And if you didn't have a good time with them, you can say don't send them the message. But it'll send them a message saying, please review us, we appreciate it. You're gonna help us find our next client. And then if they forget, it'll send it again. 5 days, 7 days, 2 weeks. You can automate all of that. You make it really easy, and I could kind of go on all day. The long story short is that if you're not using software like this, you need to try. Take up the trial. All of the people at Jobber are really great at spending time with you and telling you how to make it work for your business. So it's worth a shot.
Yeah, unreal. Yeah, appreciate it. I know you said that wasn't paid. I feel like I owe you for that speech there. I could do a quick little Q&A if anyone has any sort of questions or anything like that.
Two things that I liked about Jobber. One is the AI agent inside for help. Because if you're new at the software, you look at the little question mark thing and you think, you got to type in the right question, whatever. But you just talk to it and say, hey, I need to know how to figure out this. And it comes back and it gives you a real AI answer and helps you find how to fix or do the problem. And I thought, it's becoming more common. I see it in Shopify too. But I thought that was really nice because I don't use it every day. I don't have a stain company. But if I did have a company that did contracting, I think it's a good tool. The other thing I thought that was interesting, and maybe even more so in Canada than other places, is the mapping tool. I don't know if you guys tried that, but if you have 5 different customers, it optimizes the route for you, and that's very handy. Now, I'm not sure if it takes real-time data for traffic, but if you've got 5 jobs to do, especially in areas you don't necessarily know, it can optimize which one you should go to first. I thought that was cool. Is it expensive?
Great question. Great question. The biggest question always, price. So one thing with Jobber, we have very flexible pricing plans. Basically 4 different plans, but they range on user count as well as features. But you can get them at a few different layers as far as maybe you're just a solo owner operator. You don't have to pay for 15 licenses on our top plan that you're not going to use just to get those features. So we're going to range anywhere from about $39 a month up to our top plan, which I think it's about $5.99 $5.99 or $6.99 there. Ideally, if you go through a demonstration of Jobber, can walk you through how it works for your industry. Super easy to tell you what your needs are, what your fit is, and how you can get the optimal pricing there. Because there's a lot of flexibility as far as maybe you're, solo owner operator, you have someone else out in the field having a 1-user plan, adding a user on top of that, not paying for unneeded kind of user count there. So is it expensive? Not for what you get at all. You get a lot of value compared to the price there. Pointed out, but one thing that we do provide here at Jobber and big competitive advantage is that 1, super easy to operate, interface is second to none there, and 2 is when you start with Jobber, you get connected with product coach for one-on-one onboarding. So the first 90 days of your subscription, you have someone who's basically going to train you on the software over Zoom. They'll do what we call a kickoff call. They walk through your workflow, how you can use it, how other people in your industry are using it, and then you book further training calls. So want to make sure that you know how to use it, but also you see the value in it if you're going to obviously pay and commit to a CRM or field service management software, I should say.
Had questions from people is contractors. They hate doing expenses. Does the software help them with managing their expenses?
We do have an expense management part to it there, and we do have the ability for a little bit of job costing as well, where some of the expenses will funnel into your profit margins as well as labor costs and everything there. So the expense part will keep track of all of your expenses. You can link them to specific jobs. It would more so come down to, I guess, how in depth are you going with your expenses outside of that.
Andre did an amazing job, by the way. It was very motivational. So I'm not going to try to top him on that, but I'll just say that I started my business very small, and one of the first things we bought was that core plan, and we stuck with it for a long time. And within my company, I'm not the one using Jobber all the time on such a in-depth level, but one time I spoke to one of my early employees and I said, what can we do to improve everything? Or like, what can we do to improve? And the one thing was, when we were on the core plan, we kind of just messaged him on Facebook, this is your schedule tomorrow, this is when you'll start, and he said, it'd be really nice if we could just, know our schedule ahead of time. So that's when we made the first upgrade from the core to the next level, and all of the employees love it. They get to see more so what's going on. And another key factor too, just as a deck stainer, I'll include the photo so that when the pressure washing employee goes to the job site, they will see, okay, this is the deck I'm working with. They kind of get an idea of what to expect. When he finishes the job, he takes a photo and he uploads the washed photo. That's where the staining crew can now see, okay, that's how well it washed. I'm expecting this kind of day. And then just from there, it's just so easy to, and a customer will come to me and say, okay, so what's the next step? How do I pay you guys? I just say, we'll send it to you by the end of the day. But really, it could have been like there on the spot. It's just like you press the invoice, send, it'll show you the pre-made email, and everything looks really professional. So I think Jobber is definitely worth it, especially when you're starting on your own. It's also just a per month cost, right? It's not any sort of like fixed big license. At the end of the day, I'm just gonna say I use Jobber. I think it's pretty good. Nowadays, you hear about AI taking over, and even some software companies might be under threat because AI will just replace it with a cheaper software. And my business partner who uses Jobber in depth, I made that joke to him. I said, okay, let's just use a cheaper one. And he resisted it so much, despite him being one of those pro AI will replace every software kind of thing. So like once it's embedded into your company, you're not gonna wanna turn it off because all of your contacts are in there, and it's very sticky. Just more of a compliment than anything.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. I think that's a good point as well, that the software is like built to scale up with it. Built for that small to medium-sized business. So yeah, you're starting out as a solo owner-operator. There's a lot of room to grow up in Jobber, more plans, more functionality. And I think someone already mentioned it, but we're releasing a ton of new features at all times. And yeah, starting to lean into some of that AI functionality. So no, I appreciate the words there.
I'll kind of add to this too. I actually been a Jobber client, Jobber client for since 2013. So very new client. I'm actually still on the loyalty plan, but I've added a couple of features onto it. Couple things that I do is actually it does sync with, I use Company Cam to do before and after pictures, and that nicely syncs with Company Cam. And I also use for my accounting, I use Xero. I used to use QuickBooks, but I found that a pain in the I use Xero now, and that actually nicely syncs as well. And now I actually also use Jobber for my website because my provider decided to close shop, so I use Jobber, and that's included. The website's included as well. So
yeah.
So yeah, many features. I just got an email yesterday with all the updates coming in this month.
Yeah.
So it's great program. I would strongly recommend it.
Appreciate it.
I know you're monthly, yearly, but what about the credit card payment? Is there an added fee, etc.? Can you talk about that?
Credit card payments are 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. To be honest, any sort of credit card payment across any company, you're going to be relatively around that kind of space there. What makes our rates a little bit more competitive is that a lot of times you'll get a rate for maybe a Visa, you're going to get a rate for an Amex, maybe you get a certain rate if you key it in on your laptop as opposed to taking it elsewhere. Ours is 2.9% plus that 30 cents per transaction across the board. Makes it easy to work that 3% just into your prices. That's what a lot of people do. That's what we typically recommend to people. That way, if they pay cash or check, you can still take that. You're an extra 3%, or they pay credit card kind of built into the overhead there. But that's what our rates look like. I don't know if anyone has any tips on how they do credit card payments. But yeah, it's a big question we get. A lot of people are reluctant at sometimes to use credit card payments, but it's starting to become more and more of like a normal occurrence kind of in this space. Just how I mentioned with like a more convenience economy and making things, a lot easier for the customer. But yeah.
I used QuickBooks Online, and I was listening in to the Jobber Summit, and I had somebody call last week, and they said they're partners with QuickBooks.
Yep.
If I'm paying for QuickBooks online, I feel like a lot of what you're saying I can do with QuickBooks, maybe not quite as much of the AI return emails, but my business, like as a deck builder, I'm on site for 2 months sometimes on a job site. What's your big difference? Like, why would it be beneficial for me to join Jobber as well?
We are partnered with QuickBooks, yeah, so we would sync directly with them, and a lot of people actually use Jobber and QuickBooks as their tech stack as opposed to just one or the other. Jobber is not an accounting software, so we won't keep track of, I mean, you could get the data from it, but it won't easily be collected like QuickBooks does. They're more industry agnostic, where they provide the quoting and some scheduling and invoicing across like a wide variety of industries, where we're built more so for home services. Where a lot of people will use QuickBooks and then start to look into something like Jobber is if they are, maybe they have more team members, they need better scheduling and dispatching. Jobber can typically do a lot more of that. Our quoting features are built specifically for home services, so the quotes typically look a lot more professional and a lot more in-depth than what you get in QuickBooks there. A few other things on top of that, but yeah, like it's typically not one or the other. It's typically you're using both of them. Jobber you're kind of using as your source of truth. You quote, you do everything through that up into the invoicing. That syncs into QuickBooks just for the accounting side of things. So it's really, as far as feature-wise, if you're looking to get more professional quotes, looking to get better scheduling, better dispatching, some of our like automated reminders and stuff are a little bit more detailed there, and then just getting a software that's built more so for your industry as opposed to one that's built across the board. But they are a partner of ours. We sync with them and everything. So there's obviously a space for both, but yeah.
I guess what you're saying is that you spend more time on individual jobs, and so it's like it doesn't feel like you have as large of a client base to have to communicate with.
If somebody's picking a deck, it all depends on what deck material, what railing, and there's so many other little subcategories that follow with those.
Yes, so you can have like optional items. So railing option glass, railing option aluminum.
You know, I might need 6 corner posts and 3 wall brackets and all this on a Vista rail, but then if someone goes with Regal, it could be totally different. Like there's so many little bits and pieces that I don't know how to. Like
No.
For me to do a quote, it takes me hours to do a quote.
Yes, no, I agree. And so like more of it's going to be like this. You know that this is what you're going to outline on every quote. Open stringer, close stringer, open riser, close riser. And so like I outline those things and I have pictures and I show my work. So like at the bottom of a deck quote, I show all the decks that I've done. I can show reviews from decks that I've done previously. So it's like more like enhanced quotes. And then also the big thing is clients have to digitally sign that quote. So I force them to sign that quote, and on that will say certain specifications. The other thing that could be good for you is like the scheduling. So you know like how you're scheduling your work, and if things are going up, scheduling the guys, scheduling the crews. And so for me, like when I go to do a deck job, I know day number 1 is like digging the post holes or digging the footings. So I've got the crew there for the footings, and then that's truck number 1. And then 2 days later comes the other truck, and I'll schedule 3 or 4 days with that truck. And so it just helps me to schedule the guys that are going to be there during doing their certain like function when they're going to be there. And then when things are running behind, I get to see it all on the schedule. And when I push a job forward, I can re-email that client right from the software to say the new start time is such and such a date. And so it just helps me to stay on top of the schedule. I don't use it for the guys' hours right now. I'm thinking about doing that, but the guys can log their hours in there and then see where they're going in the future. But a little bit less useful for you than it is for me, but it's more the professional thing. Even the email campaigns, staying top of mind. So like you have a good client and they remember you when you leave, and then not that you didn't do a great job, but they sometimes forget. They forget to refer you, and like you can stay on them with the email campaigns, keep top of mind, and then sometimes that in itself leads to a job, just like a timing thing, right? And so it's hard to say which thing will do it, but it's like if you're always doing combinations of jabs and crosses, it's like you have a better chance to win the fight. So it's more just the system being there to do that for you all the time when you're not thinking to do it. More than like that's where I've seen it like help me out.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the engagement as well. Appreciate Fence Armor inviting us and being able to come today. Awesome.
We're we're going to get Justen to come down and talk about log cabin fencing. He's done a great job with log cabins. He's kind enough to travel the entire planet to get here, basically. So we look forward to having him.
We have intro music. AI is pretty amazing. You can go in there, and if you have the proper prompt, it will create amazing things. So my name is Justen. I was born and raised in Toronto, here in Ontario. After high school, I moved to the Azores, Portugal, and then ended up meeting my wife, my eternal queen, and moving to Nebraska. And we've been there ever since. We have 6 kids, all from the same wife, same dad. Yeah. Yep, 29 years of marriage and still counting. So I want you now to give yourselves a hand of applause for coming out and learning about a new trade. And I want to say how proud I am that you're looking to offer something new or to improve on something that you're already doing, and how amazing that is. Because very few people take the risk or look at the risk and do what you're doing today. So I want to congratulate each and every one of you for believing in yourselves and believing in what you can do and what you can offer to those that you're going to be serving. So thank you for doing that. I own Making All Things New. We've been in business since 2014. We started our business off on a hope and a prayer. I used to deliver mail, and so I was your local postman, never became postal or went postal. And one of the things that led me to wood care was, as I was driving around delivering the mail, I would see decks, fences, pergolas that were untreated and neglected. And I was like, man, I can make that look new. And so my wife and I thought about, well, how are we going to do it? And we basically, like we talked about earlier, I had a Honda Civic. I'm a Honda guy. So I started off with a Honda Civic, 4-door. I would shove a power washer in there, a 3,200 PSI, 3 gallon per minute power washer in there, hoses, a pump up sprayer, and I would go and do decks. And I did that for about a season. And then I upgraded to a Chevy Venture. And then from there, we upgraded to another vehicle. And we got a different pressure washer, and we just kept building. And so the comment earlier of start off with baby steps, it's because I've done it. I've been where you're sitting, where I didn't know, can I afford to get a cool van like Caleb was showing on his PowerPoint? Or could I start off with simple steps and learn? Make mistakes, because you'll make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. One of the things that you guys have now that I didn't have when I started is a community that is out there to help. You have Al Martin and his group with Fence Armor who are willing to listen to your calls. They're willing to answer your calls. They're willing to take your questions, and if they don't have answers, they'll reach out to people with answers, and they'll get those answers back to you. If you're not a member of the Stain and Seal University, I highly recommend you join. There will be people in there who say the snide comments and make fun of you, or or they'll make a stupid comment. But 99% of the folks in there will listen to your questions, and they'll help you the best way that they can. They'll give you positive feedback. They'll give you ideas. They'll give you steps to take. So if you're not part of that group, I highly recommend you join it. So we're going to talk about exterior wood staining, specifically log and siding. And so we're just going to touch on the very basics of wood staining. So we were talking in the back about cabin staining. Cabins can become very detailed, very difficult to work on, right? How many in here know how to replace logs? I don't. All right, so I don't touch that. But what we will touch on is some basic exterior staining, washing, prepping, some of the equipment that you need, and some of the opportunities that are out there. So wood cleaning and restoration of log homes and wood-sided buildings, surface preparation, stain selection, applications. So stain selections, you see a massive wall of stains that we have behind us. You've got your transparency, your semi-transparents to your semi-solids, and then you have what's more specifically catered to the exterior surface of homes, siding, the expert log and timber oil. If you want to reach out to Caleb afterwards, he can explain why you would want the log and timber compared to just a semi-transparent or semi-solid. There's benefits of one over the other. So a quick story, or let me ask a question. How many of you on your way here or during this week, you've seen an exterior project that you looked at and you thought, I could take care of that job. How many of you did something about it? So quick story, my wife and I, we went down to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She's a runner, and so we went down there for her to run a race. On our way back, we stopped at a visitor center in Arkansas, Lake Village, Arkansas. Never heard of the place, never knew it even existed. They had a visitor center that's wooden, beautiful center. It's neglected, needs to be washed, needs to be stained. And I'm one of those kind of people where I see something, I see it, I think, can I take care of that? I can. How do I go about doing it? Went inside the visitor center, asked the young man there, hey, who do I contact about the facilities? Oh, you would have to contact so-and-so. Can I get his information from you? Why? Well, I'm gonna call him about taking care of this. Oh yeah, it definitely needs it. So I got his information. A real quick email and a phone call, left a message, and that was it. 2 weeks later, hey, yeah, we would love to get a bid. So just taking the initiative to see it and then act upon it will lead to work, right? If you don't act upon your intuition, that spidey sense, that whatever moves you to want to do something, you're missing out on opportunities. We talked about earlier about reaching out to contractors. What's worked for me? Donuts. You will not believe how many companies, deck builders, fence builders, home builders, overhead ceiling builders, tongue and groove builders, right? You drop by with a dozen donuts, some coffee, you stop in, hey, my name is Justen, I'm with Making All Things New. I stain decks, I stain fences, I stain pergolas, I stain whatever you need me to stain. You guys build it, I've seen your work, we should be partners. And I'll leave them some donuts, I'll leave my business card, and I leave it at that. A couple of weeks later, I'll come by with some more donuts. Or this time, maybe I'll bring bagels. And I'll ask, can we sit down and talk and enjoy some breakfast together? Matt Warner, Empire Fence and Netting. We have a great relationship because I took him some Mountain Dew. That's all it took. I heard him on YouTube talk about, I forget what brand of Mountain Dew, mango and orange. Kickstarts. I don't know if they have Kickstarts in Canada. Took him some Kickstarts. We now do fence staining for him every time he needs a fence stained. So the opportunities are there. You just need to look for them and take the initiative to make the phone call, reach out through Facebook, Messenger, email, just touch base with folks. The same thing is existing with outdoor buildings and surfaces. Obviously, if you have a log home, a cedar siding home, the same things that happen with fences and decks are the same things that are happening with these buildings. If they're not treated, they're gonna become rotten. The exposure to sun, to organic growth, all those things that take place, the same thing happens with these structures. Most standard process for preparation, the exister coating, moisture, mildew checks, check for rotting. You want to check for plants around the infrastructure. Look for masonry, any issues with masonry, because you don't want to take on a job that you're going to find out has a great detail of more work than what you can handle or take care of. So before you even bid it or even plan on doing the work, make sure it's something that you can do yourself. And if it's something that you can do, go find someone who can and contract with them. There's a job that we looked at last year, beautiful job. It was going to be like one of those dream jobs, right? We're going to call a professional photographer to come out and look at this. We got pictures when we went out to the job. They had all kinds of rot taking place. It wasn't just a quick wash and sand and restain. They needed massive log replacement. So we politely and professionally told the customer this job's not for us, and this is why. We're not specialized in replacing all these things, but here's a number for someone who is, and if they don't do the washing and staining, we'd be more than happy to come and do that part of the job. But we don't replace logs. It's best to go look, make sure things are what you can do, and then provide an estimate for that person. So there's different types of washing and preparing exterior wood. Pressure washer and adjustable tips are the method that we like to use. There's also, we talked about downstreaming, or with the X-Jet, using a 12-volt battery operated sprayer for cleaners, for the brightener. There's also media blasting. You guys do any media blasting here in Ontario, or know of? Do you guys know what media blasting is? Okay, so we got two. So media blasting is basically you're taking, most people use corn, or there's it's a pellet, and it's basically being shot out of a gun. It looks like a gun, so it almost looks like a flamethrower, and you got to wear a protective suit. And as you're media blasting, it's basically putting out such a high pressure of the pellet or the corn, and it's basically stripping any coating off of there, and it gives you a brand new wood look. Caleb and I were talking about earlier that the difference between media blasting and soft washing or pressure washing is night and day. Whereas if you were to wash it, it would look more like the wood on a fence. It has a little more fuzzing, a little more discoloration, not a uniform look like media blast provides. So when blasting makes sense, heavy coatings build up that is impractical to strip chemically. Log homes that have failed finishes, deep in checks and texture, large restoration projects where uniform removal is required, surface with heavy weathering, discoloration, or embedded residue, projects where sanding by hand would be too slow or inconsistent. So the media blasting kind of eliminates a lot of that sanding requirement. You have more of an even finish to it, more of a professional look. Whereas when you're pressure washing with chemicals, you're gonna have a lot more fuzzing, a lot more sanding and detailed work that's involved with it. Again, equipment types that you could use, there's dry blasting pots and pressure systems for strong coating removal, soda or specialty media systems designed for gentler restoration. There's the cob, that's like the corn. It's got a shell crushed glass capable systems. There's air compressor size to maintain steady pressure and volume. And then the nozzles, the moisture separators, and containment accessories. So if you've never media blast, it's not something that you just pick up and decide you're gonna go do. It requires a lot of experience and training and knowing what you're doing. Different types of log versus wood siding. I know Darren touched a little bit on this. There's the half log siding, there's your prefabricated wood look siding, there's your cedar, and then there's your logs. Take consideration in before taking the job to make sure it's something you can handle and take care of. Some of the tools that you'll need on a job site, if you're doing log homes or doing exterior sidings, obviously your extension ladders, some scaffolding if it's high enough that you need to use scaffolding. A lot of times you'll need a lift or a boom. They have, there's cones and caution signage, tarps, anything that you would need, you need to make sure you have out there. PPE, it's very important if you're doing media blasting to have the proper protection and equipment on you. If you're spraying any kind of chemical, whether it be eco cleaner, wood cleaner, or stripper, make sure you're wearing the proper PPE. Stain will not come off with stripper when you want it to. But if you get it on you, trust me, it will burn you. If you think, I'll never get burned, you'll get burned. So wear the proper PPE. Why this service is worth adding. So I talked about the cabin that we drove by, stopped at. I took a bunch of pictures. I made my due diligence because it's about a 9-hour drive from where I live in Omaha. Making a trip back out there to do the estimate doesn't make financial sense. So when we were there gathering information, I took measurements, I took pictures. So when the estimate's ready to be put together, the proposal, I already got everything I need. Is it worth doing? So that log cabin will be about $32,000 to restore. $32,000 if I'm doing decks is probably gonna be anywhere from 15 to 20 something decks. And with a proper crew, it'll probably take us about a week to go do that job. And so if you think about, is it worth doing exterior cabinets, siding, washing and staining, it's very lucrative. And the more time you spend in it and get experience in doing it, the faster you'll become. And I'm not saying speed is better than quality, but you'll learn how to do things more effectively and more efficiently, and thus your profit margins will continuously go up the more you do it. So when you expand your customer base beyond decks and fences into a higher value home exterior, it creates larger average ticket sizes because siding projects cover more square footage. Reoccurring maintenance opportunities. Caleb talked about the importance of doing maintenance washes. It's easier to keep your customer than it is to gain a new customer. And so even with log homes or exteriors, like pergolas or decks or fences, if you do a fantastic job, you get that Google review. How much easier is it for you to call them up in a couple of years and say, hey, we'd love to come back out and take care of your project this year. The time has come up for it to be redone. When would you like it done? Compared to doing Facebook ads or doing Google ads, doing door hangers or reaching out whatever marketing system that you're using and trying to get that customer who doesn't know you from Joe or Sally, right? So it's the money is there, the opportunities are there. So wood-sided homes and cabins require ongoing maintenance, property owners trying to avoid full replacement costs, high visibility neighborhoods, and rural properties with log structures, real estate prep, right? Someone was talking about earlier that we are in a buyer's market right now in the United States. There's also a buyer's market taking place. And so if that customer has a home that looks deteriorated, it hasn't been treated or upkept, their resale value is going to be far less than if you were to take care of that home, make it look fantastic, and put it on the market compared to not being cleaned. So there's opportunities in doing that, not only for that customer who's going to appreciate it and have an opportunity to sell their house faster, but also for you to do the job and provide those services. So early maintenance programs, annual exterior wash and inspection. So there's like a maintenance package opportunity there for you to come back and check for boring bees, check for insects, look for spots where there's been more sun exposure than other spots. There's opportunities to offer package deals where you educate your customer into the importance of that maintenance program. Caleb was talking about earlier about decks. You could do the same thing with exteriors, where you educate your customer, hey, we've got it from looking untreated, gray and weathered with organics to looking clean and stained with a good oil. It's got the log and timber comes with citronella, or it comes with a natural defense already mixed in there. And a lot of those customers, no offense to the ladies in the room, but they love the smell of citronella oil. If you take citronella oil or some of that log and timber and you take the regular oil and you give it to Mrs. Jane or Mrs. Smith or Mrs. Robinson, and she smells that, she may act like, we've had people ask us, did you put essential oils in our stain? That's so kind of you. I love it. And we don't have any more gnats flying around, or we don't have all these bugs buzzing around. The husband can care less. He just smells the citronella. He's like, oh, great, another fragrance. But it's one of those little premium packages things that you could offer to your customer and why they should have their exteriors treated and stained. So in summary, if you see it, do something about it. All right? Don't be afraid to approach somebody. How many in here, when your phone rings, you pick it up? How many in here don't pick it up and let it go to voicemail? So you probably lost out on about 50% of your possible clients. I can't remember the study, but there was a study done 3 years ago, 2010 to 2020. If a contractor allowed their phone to ring and went to voicemail, they still had a greater opportunity of getting that customer than if they had just answered the phone. From 2020 on, they found that if you let that call go straight to voicemail, they're going to go find somebody else. They're not going to call you back. And then the person who does pick up the phone has a higher percentage of gaining that job than you, even if it's a return customer or a repeat customer. Folks want to hear a voice. They want to hear you answer your phone. They want to be respected and appreciated. So in closing, if you see jobs that are out there, exteriors, cabins, and you feel comfortable, you feel like it's something that you can do, take the leap of faith, take the step, reach out, offer an estimate, offer a bid, talk to them. The worst thing that can happen for you is, like they said earlier, they could say no. And the best thing that can happen is you gain an opportunity to provide a service because the jobs are out there. Any questions?
When you do the log homes, what's the process like? So you're washing it, sanding, staining it, or are you doing the media blasting most of the time? Like, what's that process essentially?
So for us personally, we don't do any media blasting because media blasting requires a decent piece of equipment is going to run you $15,000 on up. And most of the homes that we do in our area are easy wash and stain. So we'll do wood cleaner, brighten it, same process as decks and fences. So we use, on a home, we'll typically use an X-Jet to put our cleaner on. So we pre-wet it with the X-Jet, put the cleaner on. We let it sit longer than we normally do. We let it sit about 15 to 30 minutes, keeping it moist, keeping it wet during the dwell time. And then we'll use our J-rods, our soft washing tips, because that reduces the amount of fuzzing that may take place compared to your tips that come with your pressure washer. So how many in here have a pressure washer with the white, yellow, green, red, and black tips on it? How many in here use the J-rod tips? So those of you with the pressure tips, you're not doing anything wrong. I personally would suggest throwing those things away. If you have wood, so in our area, or in your area, it used to be my area too, what's the majority of wood species that you guys deal with and gals deal with? Cedar, pressure treated, spruce. So with those pressure tips, you're probably going to get away a lot better on that pressure treated than you are if it was cedar. So if you have issues with fuzzing, a lot of times it might be that pressure tip because you're doing, those tips put out PSIs instead of gallons per minute. The J-rod tips will do gallons per minute and not pressure. So like the pressure washer ladies, they know what I'm talking about. So if you're using a white tip, that's the equivalent of what I use on the J-rod tips. It's the smaller, I think it's like a 250. What's that?
It'll still say 4 degree on the J-rod, but like you said, it's not.
It'll do the 4 gallon per minute versus the 4,400 PSI. So if you have those tips, I mean, they work, but just be very careful because you'll get a lot of fuzzing. So when we wash a home, we make sure we use the J-rod tips because it avoids fuzzing from happening. And that's less sanding that you have to do afterwards. So we wash it with wood cleaner, use our soft wash tips, auxilic, rinse, wait for it to dry out, usually in our area about 2 days later. And then we come back and sand the whole thing. And then we stain it.
How do you do chinking?
So we talked about this earlier. I don't do chinking.
Oh, okay.
So when we do some caulking, I can't remember the name of brand of the caulking that we use. It's for specifically for logs and for cedar. We would run blue tape on either side of the crack, and then we'd caulk it in there, level it out, and then rip the tape out so it has a nice clean finish to it. The last thing a customer wants is for you to put a bunch of caulking in there and then rub it off with your finger and leave a bleed-on caulking mess.
So how do you protect the chinking from getting stain on it? Yeah.
So, making all things new, we hand brush all of our jobs minus fences. I'm sure Caleb could say I don't know if he stains by hand on his cabins or exteriors. You can stain it. We hand brush it because it alleviates waste when it comes down to plastic, tape, and the time. Whereas if you're, let's say it took you an hour to tape off all the chinking on the house. Well, that's an hour that I could be staining.
So last year when I came to this event, I got away with using the J-rods thanks to your advice. I also still use a white tip. What I found was I would buy a J-rod. I have a 5-gallon per minute machine, and or it was like 5.5, I think. But anyways, I'd get like a 5 to 6 gallon per minute rated J-rod. And I was using it, and I thought it worked pretty well, but then it'd dry out, and the deck would look not as good as perhaps the white tip, so I was kind of going back to the white tip. But then I actually had an undersized J-rod, so instead of the 5 to 6, it was like a 4 to 5, and I found that was a sweet spot. Do you have any comments on that?
Tip size matters. No inappropriate meaning behind that. Size does matter. And so, yeah, it's the same way with the airless sprayer. We talked about pressure and tip sizes. So for us as a company, we use yellow tips. They're the low pressure yellow tips for Greco. And when we put on a yellow tip compared to a black tip, so who in here knows what a Greco sprayer is? And the various tips, right? There's the black, which are the cheap. They typically are crap after 2 or 3 sprayings. Your blue tips are better. So kind of like your entry level, your good, better, best. Your black is your entry level. They're just going to send them with the machine. Doesn't cost them anything basically to make those tips. The blue tips are good tips. They're better than the black tips, but they're good. The yellow tips are low pressure. They're meant to really turn down the pressure and minimize your overspray. And then your green tips are more of a finer finish, way lower pressure, smaller orifice. The orifice is the hole that the stain is coming out of, and it allows for way less overspray. So if you're worried about overspray when you're staining with a sprayer, I suggest you start off with a green tip. You're going to go slower than you would if you were using a bigger tip, but you're learning. You're going through those baby steps of not making so many mistakes, but maybe minimizing your mistakes and growing off of them. So with the J-rod, it's the same way. A lot of folks will make the mistake, they'll just order a J-rod and they find out it's a 6 gallon per minute J-rod tip and they have a 3 gallon per minute machine. Well, your 3 gallon per minute it's too low for that 6 gallon per minute size of tip. So if you have a 5.5, you said, right? So that having the right size of J-rod tip is going to benefit you.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was apparently using the right one, and I was just kind of worried. Like, I don't think I was washing well enough, and maybe I was resulting in more sanding. So, I don't know, would you almost think it makes sense to go to the undersized one?
So for me personally, I have a 4 gallon per minute machine. It's a Predator. We use a 3 gallon J-rod tip. So it's a little lower, has a little more pressure. And then same thing, practice makes perfect, right? So the first time you go to pressure wash a deck, you may be doing the Zorro thing that was mentioned earlier, right? Or the cha-cha. How many of you have ever seen those videos where someone's washing and they're just doing the knifing and then they leave little marks all over a deck or fence? The same thing can happen with a J-rod. If you're not careful, you're too close, or you're too far away. If you're too far away, it's not going to clean as effectively. If you're too close, you're more likely to damage the wood. It'll cause a lot more fuzzing and splintering. It's just finding that sweet spot where you see where it's cleaning effectively and efficiently, and then lowering or getting away from the wood is something that you're just going to have to practice.
Also, with the special log oil, do they come in different colors like the regular stain?
Yeah, I'm looking, I see bees, or what is it, beeswax, there's bisons, there's a lot of different colors.
Question as a statement, but you were talking about like talking on the phone and answering your phone.
Yeah.
I just recently saw on one of these Facebook groups, somebody saying they were looking for recommendations for an eavesdrop company. They took the biggest companies and they had an AI answering machine, and she decided not to use them because she wants to talk to somebody in person. She doesn't like the AI answering machine.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
just might want to watch that too, because I know that's starting to take off a bit.
Yeah, I mean, so a little behind the scenes of our company. I'm the owner, I'm the operator. I'm one of those guys that I probably will never hang up my deck brushing days. I love doing it. I enjoy doing it. We have a fence armor brush. I wasn't supposed to be here, and I ended up coming. Everything worked out to be here. When I first packed my bag, I had a couple of tools that I brought, a stain paddle. Those things, there's tools that you'll use and there's tools that you'll think are silly. Stain paddle has a place in your toolbox if you utilize it. It'll help you from climbing up ladders as much as you will find yourself climbing, especially if you're doing pergolas. And if you're doing a pergola, it fits in there miraculously in spots that you're going to have the hardest time fitting a brush in. Or you're going to find yourself finding a lamb's wool mitt to do the same thing the stain paddle does. Al's brush, we have a brush that we got from him. We have done 105 jobs with that brush. And it's still, if I brought it, there's maybe a few hairs that have had to have a little haircut done to them because they started to frail a little bit. And what we do with his brush, just to kind of prove a point, we don't ever clean it with mineral spirits. We get done with the job, we put it in a 5-gallon bucket because it won't fit in a regular 1-gallon bucket. It's a massive brush. We put it in there with the hairs facing down just like it was standing up, and we allow that oil to come out naturally out of the bristle of the brush. And then when we're gonna reuse it, we have my wife hates it, but there's a wall in our garage that's wood, and we just rub it on that wall, and that wall's got chestnut, mahogany, redwood, sequoia, black, walnut, you name it, it's on there. And you might be asking, well, what if it has chestnut and you're doing honey? So we rub it on that wall, and then I go to my honey bucket, I dip it in there, and then I clean the brush off a few times. I don't put the stain back in the honey. I'll clean it up in an extra bucket that we have, and eventually that color will blend into where it now looks like honey. So it's never seen mineral spirits, it's never seen paint thinner, water, or any type of cleaner, and if the weather cooperates tomorrow, it'll see 106 jobs. And it was, what, $50? So before that, we were spending American terms, $13 on a brush that would last us about 5 jobs. And so this brush we use for floor and fences only. It's 7 inches wide. So on a fence picket, we can do one swipe up and down. So we back brush all our fences. It's just one of the things that we do. And so when we back brush, it's effective and efficient because one swipe, you're back brushing the full picket instead of using a 4-inch brush where you might have to hit it twice or 3 times. And then on the deck floor, it's the same way. It covers one board with one swipe. So 105 jobs. If you divided that by 5, I think we've saved like close to $600 on replacing brushes. So $50, you might think $50, that's a lot for a brush. But it pays for itself. Good ROI.
All right, put a hand together for Justen. Thank you, buddy. That was great. He was not paid to say anything about our brush. But we wanted to make the best brush in the world, I must say. And we spent a lot of time with that, too. Goodbye, Livestream. Thank you for joining us today. Come next year, and you can see what we're doing outside.